your registration, your professional registration with SACSSP, it's a legal requirement, and hence it is regulated, colleagues. It is a license to practice. Your registration gives you an opportunity um, to be empowered or to be recognized to execute certain statutory tasks. And we must also prove that we meet the requirements and are competent to practice. Hence, you have to register on all these categories that we are having, and we must also protect the public against unethical conduct. I think I've already touched a little bit about Section 15, where people are not supposed to practice when they are not registered with council. It also gives us an opportunity to market ourselves so that we can be internationally recognized, professional, recognized, and be we have to talk to registration status. A program director, am I audible?
We lost you seriously, Ms. Malomo. We've lost you on some points, but continue. I think it's the network on your side. Thank you.
Yes, because um I think my net um we hope we didn't lose colleagues that much, but nonetheless we will ensure that we share the slides, the presentation, so that colleagues can go through the presentation at their own time and be informed about the processes of council. The next slide talks to the registration status. It says a person's registration status is subject to the payment of annual fee, which is due by the 1st of January each year as follows. Registration on the professional level, it's 500 colleagues. I mean, the annual fees. And the child and youth care work at auxiliary level is 250. Colleagues, Akiri, we register and then we pay the annual fees. So this slide is talking to the registration status that a person who is unable to pay the annual fee, either due to unemployment or ill health, can apply for exemption. Applications for exemption must be made on the 31st of November each year. This is another sub-activity that we do within the registrations. We subject applications of applicants who have applied to be exempted to certain processes up until they reach the point where the determination is being made, and then they get to be approved and they are given the opportunity to seek employment whilst they are unemployed. The registration status also talks to the failure of payment of the annual fees that leads to the name of the registrants to be removed. This is the part where I explained to say we are currently faced with non-compliance on Section 21D, where registrants are unable to pay their annual fee on time. And the other parts on the registrations that we need to be aware of is that a person whose name has been removed from the register is not allowed to practice as a child and youth care worker because he or she is regarded as being not registered, colleagues. And practicing without registration, it's a criminal offense. And on conviction, a person may be liable to a fine or imprisonment for a period not exceeding 6 months. I think, colleagues, these are the aspects that we tried to explain as and when we were explaining our sub-program of deregistration. And And I think by now, within the midst of attendees in this meeting, we do have the categories that we are having on registers. So to confirm to the sector that SACSSP is registering 4 categories or four sub levels within the category child youth care work. We've got child and youth care work on the professional level. We've got child and youth care workers on auxiliary level. We've got student and child youth care workers, and we've got student auxiliary child and youth care workers. These are the 4 levels that we are currently having on the registers for the child youth care workers. The following slide, colleagues, talks to the regulations now, the requirements. It talks to the requirements for registrations within the professional category. Regulation 16.1, it reads as thus: a person who possesses the following qualifications may apply for registration as a child and youth care worker within the professional category of registration. A degree in child and youth care, equivalent to an NQF level 8 qualification registered with SACSSP. B, a BTEC child and youth development, NQF level 7, or such other level as SACSSP may determine, provided that the applicant submits a portfolio of evidence, which must include an assessment proving that the applicant meets the outcomes reflected in the degree referred to in sub-regulation 16.1a, which is the sub-regulation above of it. C states that a degree in human sciences equivalent to an NQF level 7 qualification obtained prior to the promulgation of these regulations and approved by the council, plus a combination of both theoretical and practical learning in child and youth care obtained over a period equivalent to 12 calendar months, provided that the applicant submits a portfolio of evidence, which must include an assessment proving that the applicant meets the outcomes reflected in the degree referred to in sub-regulation 16.1a, or D of the regulation states that a qualification in child and youth care equivalent to an NQF level 6 qualification and approved by the council plus practical learning in child and youth care obtained over a period equivalent to 24 calendar months subsequent to the completion of the qualification, provided that the applicant submits a portfolio of evidence, which must include an assessment proving that the applicant meets the outcomes reflected in the degree referred to in sub-regulation 16.1a. Subsection 2 of regulation 16 indicates that the qualifications referred to in sub-regulation 16.1a to D may be obtained through RPL, provided that not more than 50% of the qualification may be obtained through RPL. Regulation 17 talks to the requirements for registration in auxiliary category for child youth care work registrations. So this regulation 17 is it's people that do not possess the tech. And I think this is where we're sourced from in this category of auxiliary. But colleagues, let us get the knowledge. Regulation 17, subsection 1 states that A person who possesses the following qualifications may apply for registration as a child and youth care work within the auxiliary category of registration. A, an FET certificate in child and youth care equivalent to an NQF level 4 qualification registered with SACSSP, or B, theoretical and practical learning obtained prior to the commencement of compulsory registration in terms of these regulations approved by the Council, equivalent to 1,650 hours, provided that the applicant submits a portfolio of evidence which must include an assessment proving that the candidate meets the outcomes reflected in the FET certificate in child and youth care work. Subsection 2 of Regulation 17 states that the qualifications referred to in A and B may be obtained partially or as a whole through RPL. It further states that under 3, a person who, on the date of the commencement of these regulations, does not meet the requirements for registrations as a child and youth care worker within the auxiliary category of registration may apply for such registration if he or she provides the following: documentary proof acceptable to the council that he or she was practicing or employed as a child and youth care worker on the date of commencement of these regulations. B, a job description acceptable to the council from his or her employer, indicating that he or she meets the job profile of a child and youth care worker. Or C, a declaration by the a declaration to the council to the effect that the content of the job description and employment designation is a true reflection of his or her employment contract with the employer concerned. Section 4 of 17 states that a person may obtain a period of 3 from the for registration as a child and youth care worker within the auxiliary category of registration. The following slide talks to the amendment of Regulation 17. And I want to believe that colleagues are following the sequence that where we're coming with sunset clause. It is also in the regulations, colleagues. So this slide talks to the amendment of Regulation 17 of the 2014 regulations. It reads as thus: Regulation Regulation 4 of the regulations for child and youth care workers, auxiliary child and youth care workers, student and youth care workers, as published in the Government Gazette number 42697 on the 13th of September 2019. It states the following: Regulation 4 of 2019 regulations described herein above provides that a person who was registered in accordance with Registration 17 of the 2014 regulations must have. I'm going to repeat, colleagues. I'm sorry for that. I got distracted. Regulation 17 of the 2014 regulations must have obtained within a period of years from the date of his or her registration and colleagues. Any person who has not education as prescribed within 4 years from the date of registration, he or her registration with the SACSSP has lapsed by operation of law. Hence, colleagues saw the deregistration of the affected child and youth care workers in the auxiliary category. The next slide provides for the statistics as that we're about to share with them. It's as until the 31st of March 2024. Colleagues on the child and youth care work professional level sitting on 228. On the auxiliary level, we are sitting at 16. For student auxiliary, we are sitting on 4,389. For the child youth care student, we are on 319. The total number for the child youth care category within the registers of SACSSP is 13,952. Colleagues, hope my presentation has assisted in some of the processes that we have worked on and the reasons behind the implementation of certain processes within the mandate of the registrations division. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Malombo, for registration presentation on the mandate and the processes thereof. Colleagues, please, we apologize for the network issue that was on the side of Ms. Malombo, but we want to assure you that we will get the presentation in terms of the processes that has been presented. If you had questions, please hold your question. You'll be given time. Can you kindly project the agenda of this webinar so that we can move forward? For time is against us, but we want to acknowledge the presentation from Registration Division by Ms. Malombo. Maybe by this time we will ask Ms. Mokoena, Ms. Betty, yes, the Acting Education Training and Development, to assist us on the CPD. Over to you, Ms. Mokoena. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director. Good morning to the Registrar. Good morning to the NACCW Chairperson, the Chairperson for the Professional Board for Child and Youth Care Work, the board members who are present, all the attendees and colleagues. I will be switching off my video for the sake of the presentation. Thank you. My presentation is on the CPD. My name is Betty Mokoena, Acting Manager at the Education Training and Division. The purpose of this presentation is to define continuing professional development, which is CPD, to provide an overview of the CPD policy, to take the attendees through the process of assessment of CPD application for group activities, non-compliance to attain CPD points. What is continuing professional development? Continuing professional development is a process aimed at maintaining registration through enhanced knowledge, skills, and experience related to the professional activities following the completion of formal training in child and youth care work at professional and auxiliary level. It also refers to intentional learning experience that help the social service professionals to develop and enhance their professional practice. The overview of the CPD. The following sections of the Social Service Professions Act 110 of 1978 as amended give the SACSSP a mandate for the provision of the CPD. Section 3, I won't go through all the sections. They are listed just for the sake of time. The section 14B, one of the objects of the professional board is to control and to exercise authority in respect of all matters affecting training of persons in professions falling within the ambit of the professional board. In alignment with international practice, the Professional Board for Child and Youth Care Work, under the auspices of the SACSP, established a system of CPD to enhance and ensure the quality of services rendered by child and youth care workers. Social service professionals have the obligation to adhere to the CPD requirements. Through CPD, the changing and evolving knowledge, attitudes, and skills based on child and youth care work practice is enhanced. CPD enables and encourages child and youth care workers to share and train with their colleagues on new knowledge and expertise. The CPD policy for child and youth care work was approved in 2020. Child and youth care workers at professional level, excluding the students, have to accumulate a minimum of 15 CPD points annually or 30 CPD points over a 2-year cycle. So all the registered child and youth care workers are expected to acquire CPD points annually. You can either acquire 15 per annum or 30 over the period of 2 years. Child and youth care workers at auxiliary level have to accumulate a minimum of 10 CPD points annually or 20 CPD points over a period of 2-year cycle. A minimum of 10 accumulated points can be forwarded to the next year for a maximum period of 1 year. So we will go to the categories of the activities. Group activities. This is the conferences, congress, symposium, seminar. It's about 2 hours to 5 days. Workshops, which is 4 hours to 5 days. Group discussions, 1 to 4 hours. 3 to 25 persons in attendance. Each session should have a specific topic for discussion. Information sessions is 1 to 3 hours. All activities may be facilitated online. Individual online activities, asynchronous learning, fully online, completed in own time. This you can study on your own and keep it aside. That we'll get to that process for keeping the learning aside. Activities containing video, recorded presentations, video clips, other visual materials should provide proof of participation through online assessment. Assessment process. Applications have to be submitted at least 6 weeks prior to implementation. So this process is for those who would like to offer the training for CPD. The assessment process is as follows. The assessment panel assesses the applications within 6 weeks. All the applications must be submitted to council within 6 weeks before the activity. Communicate outcome of assessment within 2 weeks after assessment. Possible outcomes, it's approved, not approved, or suspended. If it's not approved or suspended, the panel will provide reasons for the non-approval. Reasons for applications suspended or not approved are communicated to the applicants. CPD panel, maximum of 5 and minimum of 3 representatives from the profession. At least one should be a member of the professional board of care work. Panel members must be registered with the SACSSP and approved by the Professional Board for Child and Youth Care Work. Panel meets at least every 6 weeks or depending on the applications that are available. Applications should include the following documents: fully completed, signed and dated application form, Form E2.1, which is accessible on the website or you can request it from the office. CPD application checklist, detailed program or agenda, clearly reflecting time starting and closing times, tea and lunch breaks, and time spent on presentations and participative activities. Framework of the content, CVs or CV of the facilitator or facilitators, attendance register, evaluation form, proof of payment of the assessment fee. We charge for assessing the application. For activities that will be paid for, it's 800 rand, and for the activities that will be presented for free, it's 150. CPD group activities include conference, congress, symposium, seminar, presentations, and discussion of relevant topics related to specific theme, workshop, presentations, intensive discussions, and skills development activities on specific subject, group discussion, group supervision, planned or structured with a specific topic per session, emphasis on discussion. More than one session for the same group of participants may be included in one application. Information session, sharing of information on a specific topic. Criteria for assessment of the application. We have levels on the criteria for the assessment. Level 1 of the level of the content, information shared on a basic level, undergraduate level, refresher, intermediate level, advanced level. Number 2, presenter credibility, professional with a basic knowledge and experience in the field of the topic presented, clear evidence of expertise in the field of the topic presented, demonstrated expertise in the field of the topic presented. Number 3, assessment of learning, basic evaluation form with specific reflection on content presented through open-ended questions, assessment of increased knowledge and skills through practical application, assessment or assignments. Number 4, participation method, passive listening, participation for less than 20% of duration, participation of more than 20% of duration. Number 5, relevance of the activity for professional development of the target group. Low, refresher of basic knowledge. Medium, sharing of further or new knowledge and skills development. High, address current challenges and priorities in South African context. Number 6, ethics. None of unclear, limited inputs, specific presentation and discussion on ethics related to the topic, entire program content focused on ethics. Number 7, skills development, none of unclear, basic social work skills. Apologies, here is supposed to basic child and youth care work skills. Expansion of basic skills and new developments, skills relevant to specialized approach, model, or specialty in child youth care work. Assessment of CPD applications. When calculating CPD points, the following are considered. Rating is allocated for each of the 7 fields. Duration of the activity per hour or per days. 6 hours is considered a full day, which is a maximum of 8 points, which can be allocated. A CPD approval number is allocated to approved activity groups. We also have the appeal process in case the applicant is not satisfied with the outcome. The appeal should be submitted in writing on the appeals form within 21 days after the results of the assessment was communicated. Appeals should be reviewed within 40 working days. Review conducted by an independent CPD appeal panel utilizing the same assessment tool. Feedback is provided within 5 working days. Decision of the CPD panel is final. Outcomes of the appeals are reported to the Professional Board for Child and Youth Care Work. Non-compliance to attain CPD points. Child and youth care workers are required to keep a portfolio of evidence for all approved group and individual activities attended. Individual portfolio of evidence will be assessed and moderated by the approved subject matter experts as per the criteria of the CPD assessment tool. Non-compliance will be dealt with in accordance to Section 21 and Section 22 of the Social Service Professions Act 110 of 1978. All the child and youth care workers are required to have a portfolio of evidence where they will put all the certificates for the CPD training that they have attended, either group activities or individual activities. So this is where non-compliance will apply in case the SSPs do not have the portfolio of evidence. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Betty Mokoena, for such a presentation. I hope by this time, if we have any clarity-seeking questions, we are noting them down so that at the end of this webinar, we shall be presenting them. From this time, I want to go to the second point, which is our code of ethics for child and youth care workers. This one is very empirical because as child and youth care workers, they really know how to conduct themselves as such as child and youth care workers in the field. I'll call the second speaker, which is Ms. Anama Tonsela, acting professional conduct manager, to do the presentation on the code of ethics for child and youth care workers. Over to you, Ms. Matonsela.
Thank you, Program Director. Good morning to the registrar, the members of the Board for Child and Youth Care Workers, the members of the Board for Social Workers, the chairpersons from NACCW, the colleagues from the office, all stakeholders who attended the webinar, and all the child and youth care workers who have taken this time to attend this webinar. For the sake of presentation, I will switch off my camera so that the presentation goes smooth. I will share. Program Director, through you, may I request that should there be any glitches, please indicate so that I can switch the gadgets. Thank you. My name is Anna Matonsela, Acting Manager of Professional Conduct. The first slide speaks to the mandate of Council, which is provided for in Section 3 of the Social Service Professions Act, which is as follows, or states the following: protect and promote the interests of the professions in respect of which professional boards have been or are to be established, which is to maintain and enhance the prestige, status, integrity, and dignity of the professions in respect of, regulate the practicing of the I see the hand, Program Director. I don't know, maybe I'm not audible.
There's a hand, Ms. Katlego Phiri. Is that a hand? You may continue, Ms. Matonsela. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I thought maybe I'm not audible. Regulate the practicing of the professions to determine the standards of professional conduct of social service professionals, to exercise the effective control over the social service professionals. That is the mandate of Council, mandate of professional conduct. Rules and regulations. Council made the following rules and regulations to give effect to the objects of Council as far as professional conduct matters are concerned. And those rules are as follows: rules relating to the conduct of child and youth care workers practicing their professions, the rules relating to the acts or omission of child and youth care workers at professional and auxiliary level, which constitute unprofessional or improper conduct. These are the rules that the committee are using when there's a contravention. Regulations regarding the conducting of inquiries into alleged unprofessional conduct. These are regulations used or considered when dealing with disciplinary hearings. The Code of Ethics for Child and Youth Care Workers. All child and youth care workers must adhere to the following principles when practicing the profession. They must know that every child has a unique individual value, potential, rights, and a right to professional social services irrespective of origin, gender, beliefs, ethnicity, disability, socioeconomic or legal status. That every child has the right to acquire competences that are holistic and developmentally appropriate, and that is best raised in a family, or if this is not possible, in a setting that best approximates that of a family. A child and youth care worker has a responsibility to apply the unique knowledge, practice, and skills of the profession to the developmental benefits of the client. And a child and youth care worker must render services professionally and must recognize personal and professional limitations and take this into account in practice. The duties of a child and youth care worker. A child and youth care worker must use the knowledge base of the profession in evaluating its practice and to support the profession in order to maintain and raise its dignity, value, and integrity. A child and youth care worker must challenge unacceptable child and youth care practices and uphold those that are acceptable at all given times. And she or he must protect the child and youth care profession from unfounded criticism, which could bring the profession into disrepute. We must, at all given times, protect our profession as child and youth care workers from unfounded criticism. We must remain actively involved in the formulation, development, determination, and implementation of professional policies. And we must base our child and youth care practices on sound child and youth care knowledge, theory, theory practices, and keep abreast of relevant development and participations. Theory and practices, and keep abreast of relevant developments and participate in research, meaning it doesn't end or stop with the knowledge that we have. We must participate in research as well to handle our duties optimally. My apologies. Now my slides are not moving. My apologies. Let me stop and start sharing because my slides are not moving now. My apologies, Program Director. My apologies.
Yes, ma'am. You can proceed without sharing if you are encountering challenges when you're sharing. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll move quickly. There you go. Relationship with employer. A child and youth care must acknowledge and respect the employer's authority as far as it is compatible with the ethical conduct of child and youth care workers. The relationship with child and youth care workers institution. A child and youth care worker must cooperate with child and youth care workers institutions whose policies, procedures, and operations are directed towards adequate service rendering and encouragement of professional practices consistent with the ethical conduct. Relationship with community. A child and youth care worker must at all given time enhance and promote service rendering to the community under all circumstances by utilizing and developing resources in the community and be aware of, initiate, develop, and change social policy consistent with the professional practices. Now we're going to the acts or omission that will constitute unprofessional or improper conduct that are referred to as the rules, and that each rule will speak to the conduct of the child and youth care worker. We'll start with Rule 4, which speaks to the conduct detrimental to the profession. A conduct that will be detrimental to the profession in terms of Rule 4, Sub-Rule A, it will be when the child and youth care in the execution of his or her duties in a manner which does not comply with the general accepted standard of the child and youth care worker. And then when the child and youth care worker has contravened Rule 4, Sub-Rule B, that will when the child and youth care worker is conducting oneself in a manner which undermines the prestige, status, and dignity of the profession, or being found, which is being found guilty of committing an offense involving dishonesty or committing an act of dishonesty in the execution of professional duties, meaning when one is executing her duties, the child and youth care worker must be honest at all given times. Refusing without sufficient cause to render professional services within the regulated scope of practice which the child and youth care worker undertakes to provide or for which the child and youth care worker was employed for. You can't just refuse to render services without any sufficient cause. That will be a contravention of Rule 4, Sub-Rule D. Rule 4, Sub-Rule E speaks to employing a person as a child and youth care worker or a student child and youth care worker, knowing such person has not been registered in terms of the Act. Rule 4, sub-rule of F speaks to failure to refer a client to a colleague or another person or body with specialized knowledge in a field where the matter falls outside the child and youth care work scope of practice, field of training or experience where such referral would, in the circumstances, be reasonably considered necessary. Having to delay services to the client will be a contravention of Rule 4, sub-rule F. Rule 4, sub-rule G speaks to the failure to keep a record of acts performed, services rendered, money managed, and fees charged in all matters dealt with. And then failure to keep records speak to a failure of keeping the process note of all the acts that has been performed. Then money managed, this will speak to the child and youth care workers who are practicing in private settings. And then Rule 4, sub-rule H, the misrepresentation of professional qualifications, affiliations, level of practice, or competence, and the offering of direct or indirect, my apologies. It has moved. My apologies. Now it has moved to Rule 5, the conduct towards the client. My apologies, Program Director. It's important that we speak to all the points so that they are well understood. My apologies, I'm not sure what is it that is distracting the moving of the slides. I'll continue with Rule 5. Rule 5 speaks to the conduct towards the clients, and this presentation will be made available. It will be forwarded to the chairperson, Mr. Elwin Gallant, so that whoever is looking for gets hold of it. Rule 5 speaks to the conduct towards the client. The disclosure to a third party of information which concerns the client and which information was obtained in confidence from the client or a deceased person who was a client in the course of the execution of a child and youth care duties. A child and youth care worker is not allowed to disclose any information that came to her unless the disclosure of the information is in the client's interest or is necessary for the proper management of the case of the client consent or other cases. Or B, the child and youth care worker is ordered to disclose the information by a competent court or otherwise legally bound to do so. Or unless if the child and youth care worker discloses the information with the consent of the client, or if the client cannot give his or her consent, the consent is obtained from paragraph 1, the client's curator persona, or in the case of the minor's parent or guardian, give that consent. Or in the case of deceased client, the surviving spouse, give the consent. Or if there is no surviving spouse, a major child of a deceased client, or if there is no major child, the executor appointed by the master of the Supreme Court, only the four can give consent, and then the information can be disclosed. Only then the information can be disclosed. Now it's standing again. I will stop sharing and concentrate on that one. My apologies. Doesn't move. If and when it moves, then I will share again. Right. Rule 6 supersession. A child and youth care worker may not render services to a client who is already receiving services from another child and youth care worker. Should one do so, that is called supersession. One can do so unless the said colleague is not available and the required services cannot be kept in abeyance, meaning the services cannot be kept on hold, or if it is within the context of multidisciplinary teamwork, of which the colleague is part of, and the colleague's services have been terminated. That is Rule 6 that speaks to supersession. Rule 7, conduct towards employer and partner. The breach of contract of service. If a child and youth care worker breached the contract of service, she or he would have contravened Rule 7, Sub-Rule A. If the conduct of a child and youth care worker that would justify dismissal in accordance with labor legislation, that will be a contravention of Rule 7, Sub-Rule B. Practicing or carrying out child and youth care work services from the premises of a child and youth care practice without prior written consent of the council or contrary to a condition, if any, which such a consent was granted. Sub-Rule D, 7, Sub-Rule 7, Sub-Rule D, practicing or carrying out business, trade, work, or profession apart from the child and youth care work profession from the premises of a CYC practice without prior written consent of the council or contrary to a condition, if any, which such a consent was granted, meaning doing small businesses in the CYC setting without having a consent, that is a contravention of Rule 7, Sub-Rule D. Sub-Rule E speaks of practicing in partnership with a person who is not registered in terms of the Act, or employing a person who is not registered in terms of the Act to perform the child and youth care work. That is Sub-Rule F. Rule 8 speaks of advertisement. A child and youth care worker may not advertise his or her services in a manner that implies a comparison between the services, knowledge, skill, or efficiency of such child and youth care worker and those of a colleague or any other professional person or welfare body. Conduct by a child and youth care worker that is in contravention of Sub-Rule 1 constitute unprofessional or improper conduct. Rule 9, display of certificate. A practicing child and youth care worker who fails to produce or display the certificate, the registration certificate issued in terms of the Act, when reasonably requested to do so by any person, is guilty of unprofessional or improper conduct. The complaints against the SSPs, which are social service professionals, that includes the child and youth care workers that we are gathered with today. The complaints are dealt with as follows: professional conduct. A complainant in this instance, which will be a member of public, which can be a colleague, can be a supervisor, or anyone who feels that a child and youth care worker is not conducting herself or himself ethically, should complete and sign council prescribed form. And then all the evidence that goes with the complaint must accompany that complaint form. The respondent, in this case, the respondent will be the child and youth care worker who conducted him or herself unethically or whom the complaint is lodged against should be notified and respond to the allegations within 21 days. This is how it works. We receive a complaint. On receiving a complaint, we notify you as a child and youth care worker of this complaint that we have received in the office. We give you 21 days to respond to a complaint. And then on receipt of the response, the same response that the council has received from you, child and youth care worker, will be made available to the complainant to go through it. And she or he is allowed to file a reply to your response. On receipt of the 3 documents above that I've spoken about, they will be tabled before the Committee of Preliminary Inquiry, which is called CPI. Then the matter will be set down and then a determination will be made whereby they will determine whether the matter is closed, whether the matter is dealt with in terms of Regulation 8. One will ask, what is Regulation 8? Regulation 8 involves the prima facie that is not too much or that worse for the committee to can refer the matter for a disciplinary to a disciplinary hearing committee. Then the matter, if the matter is of a serious nature, maybe you have slapped the child, maybe you have done all other unprofessional conduct when conducting your duties, the matter will then be referred to a disciplinary hearing committee. Therefore, you are allowed to be represented by a legal person. It might be a lawyer, it might be an advocate during the disciplinary hearing proceedings. And then during the disciplinary hearing, the possible sanctions that may be passed is a reprimand or a caution, a suspension of a registration, cancellation of a registration, or a fine not exceeding 5,000 rand. Should you, the respondent, a child and youth care worker, feel aggrieved about the sanction that has been passed, you are allowed to lodge an appeal in terms of Section 25. And that appeal must be lodged within a period of 3 months after the date of the imposition of the penalty. Such an appeal will be received by our office, by the Office of the Registrar, and the said appeal will be forwarded to the Minister of Social Development, wherein the appeals committee will be appointed. Your matter will be heard, and the decision of the appeal committee is final. Should you still feel aggrieved of the outcome of the appeals committee, you are allowed to review your matter in the High Court. That will be the end of my presentation. Thank you, Program Director.
Thank you very much, Ms. Madonsela from the Office of Professional Conduct for such a fruitful presentation. And once more,
Program Director, you are muted.
Program Director, you are muted.
Good morning, everyone. Let's just be patient with the program director's audio. She was on mute. She'll be back with us in few minutes.
Good morning, everybody. While we are waiting for her to come on, it's Fiona speaking. Could I maybe check with our council registrar whether we would get an update on the current registration numbers and what's happening with the deregistration process properly?
A good day, colleagues. Our sincerely apologies for the connection. I just got muted. I don't know what happened. It's me, Kutana, on this side. I'll be using communication gadget so that we can continue. Thank you so much, Ms. Fiona, for this continuation. From this point in time, we will take the questions and answers for our webinar or for our discussions. What we'll do, we'll acknowledge hands. We'll take 10 questions per time. We'll acknowledge hands, and then we'll give you an opportunity to ask questions. On my side, I've got, don't assist me in terms of taking the questions. I've got, we've noted you, Mr. Tumisani Shabangu. Is that hand for the questions, Mr. Shabangu? Mr. Shabangu?
Yes, ma'am. Greeting to everyone. Thank you for the webinar.
Can you please hold for a minute? I wanted to acknowledge your hand first. I want to take maybe 10 hands so that we can continue. We've noted Mr. Shabangu. Ms. Fiona.
Yes, sorry, I'm just repeating my question, whether we would get a presentation from council on what is happening with the deregistration process, what the numbers are like at this point. I saw on one of the slides, there is a reflection of registered child and youth care workers at auxiliary level. Is that number of 9,016 as at 31st March, excluding the numbers that were deregistered? Perhaps some guidance on that?
Yes, ma'am. We will issue a presentation at the end of this webinar. We'll circulate the presentation. What we'll advise the attendees is to drop us an email address on the chat box so that we can assist you with the presentations. Thank you. Now we'll go to our questions. We've got Robert Mapangwa, Janine, Unati, Pumla, Nomusa, Tabisile so far. We've got 6 hands so far. Can you allow us to take the questions from those 6 hands? I'll start by you, Robert. Over to you.
I would like to say thank you to the program director for giving me this opportunity. And also like to say thank you to Mema Donsela for the beautiful presentation. Mine is not a question exactly, but it's like a question and a suggestion at the same time. To say with this presentation, it is so rich, and most of child and youth care workers, we are working at, in the CYCC and other institutions. My question or my suggestion is, can this type of presentation be presented to the other professions that we work with? Like, for example, where I'm working, we got social workers, we got nurses. So for me, I see this presentation as a job clarity. And I have a feeling that in some environments, people that don't understand fully how child and youth care workers are supposed to operate and the code of ethics. And once this is not clarified, it can bring confusion to professions like social workers when it comes to the way of doing things or rendering services. So my suggestion or my plea is, can this be shared or presented to, I don't know, to social workers, managers, or institution managers to say, these are the code of ethics, this is how child and youth care must work. Because truly it is now resulting, division somewhere, somehow. And with my understanding, I think it's because they don't understand, one, how child and youth care workers are supposed to work. I don't know if that can be possible, but I will listen to the response on the background. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robert. We have taken note of your question or advice or your clarity and a comment. We shall revert back to you. Let's go to the second speaker, which is Janine, number 2. Can you ask your question? Over to you, Janine.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, ma'am. Over to you, Ms. Janine.
I have 2 questions. Number 1 is the child and youth care workers who have been deregistered. My name is Janine. I'm from Arcadia Child and Youth Care Centre. So I've got 2 child and youth care workers who have been deregistered. They've since submitted all their documents, they've paid all their outstanding fees, and they are really struggling to get hold of council to be reinstated. Now, according to the presentation earlier, it's illegal for them to practice as child and youth care workers. What do they do? And what is my role as an employer? Do they have to be suspended? If they can't get hold of council, what is the next step? Because they've done everything they need to do and they're not getting hold of council to be reinstated. That's my first question. My other question is, according to the regulation, auxiliary child and youth care workers can only practice under the supervision of a professional child and youth care worker. So most of our staff are registered as auxiliaries, and there are not very many professional child and youth care workers. How do we move forward with this? If they have to work under the supervision of a professional child and youth care worker, what do we as a child and youth care centre do about that? Thank you.
Noted, Ms. Janine. We'll go to Unati Plegi to ask the question. Unati, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Program Director. And morning to everyone. I only have a few, only have two questions or suggestions. Firstly, I just wanted to check if we can be to the presentation, since we had technical glitches, so we could not get properly on the presentation call. So can we be emailed the presentation for all the presentations that we presented? Secondly, what I wanted to check was the issue of police clearance for those who are deregistered, because they need to apply for police clearance. So I wanted to check with the council if they do not have a memorandum of understanding with SACSSP, because it really takes a long time and it will many people being deregistered for them to get a police clearance. So I just wanted to check if we do have that memorandum of understanding, or if we can do something about that as the council, so that people apply for the police clearance, at least the turnaround time should not be more than 3 to 4 months for people to wait for a police clearance. Thank you, Program Director.
Thank you, Mr. Unati. If I get you clearly, the second question, the question is that you would like the council to do a memorandum to SACSSP concerning the police clearance. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. That's really a long time, and it will just cause a lot of delays. Yeah. those who are deregistered currently.
Okay, thank you so much, Unati. You can lower your hand. We'll go to the next question, which is Nomu Samhlongo.
Good morning, everyone. My question is basically on the delays on certificate from SACSSP. So it had been 8 years waiting for SETA to print out the certificate.
Nomu, sir,
Hello?
can you ask your question again? We
My
didn't get
question is basically on from the SWC and the council, how do you work? Because SETA, it delayed to my certificate for child and youth care worker. They asked child and youth care worker waiting for their certification, and it's been 8 years. And then how it going like that way? Because you've been waiting for your certificate. How do you pay your council if you don't receive your qualification? And also, at this level, I'm just emphasizing that why is the council not providing the code of ethics to the management, to the center? It seems like center they don't understand what is the role and responsibility of child and youth care worker.
Okay, thank you so much, Nomu. We've taken note of your questions. Yeah. Let's move to Tabisile. Please lower your hand, Nomu, sir. Thank you. Tabisile, yes. You can ask your question. Tabisile, you can ask your question.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tabile. I'm a child and youth care worker. So my question is, I recently received an email which says my name is removed from the register, but I didn't receive any message before that I must submit my qualifications. So I don't know what's happened. Thank you.
Nokolo Shazi, you can ask the question. Thank you, Tabsile. We've taken your question. You can lower your hand if you do not have any other questions. Thank you. Over to Nokolo Shazi.
Good morning, colleagues. My question is also on the deregistration of child and youth care workers. I just wanted to check that since we received letters saying that colleagues are given, I think it said 3 months to appeal and get back to the council. I just wanted to check what happens if a colleague is already registered to study and like they recently registered to study. We were just waiting for HWC to approve, and then maybe they are starting their classes the following month. So what do we do then moving forward? Is the colleague also given the 3 months not to practice, or since they have started embarking on their journey of studying child and youth care, they may continue with being maybe registered as a student or something like that and continue with practicing? And also my second concern was, let's say an official is employed by the department, and now with regards to the duties, what happens? Because the employer has their own duties that are tasked to auxiliary child and youth care workers and professional child and youth care workers. However, the scope of work of a child and youth care worker student is different from that of an auxiliary child and youth care worker. So what happens there? As a manager, what do I do? Thank you.
Thank you, Nokolo. We've noted your questions. We'll go to Tanya. Tanya, did you ask your question? Oh no, that's the first. That's the new hand. Over to you, Tanya, to ask your questions. Thank you.
Hello there, it's Tanya speaking from NTR Smith Children's Haven. I have a question regarding communication with the council. As a representative of 5 child and youth care workers in Kaberga, we sent through an email to the council regarding challenges experienced here, and I'm still waiting for a response. The email was sent on the 25th of March, and I'd like to know why there is no communication coming back. We have major concerns down here in Port Elizabeth, one of which, for example, is the lack of trained child and youth care workers. We now have to reach out to child and youth care workers as far as KwaZulu-Natal and up in Gauteng. It's really causing a major problem with high turnover of staff, which means we have child and youth care workers or staff who are employed as child and youth care workers or actually social auxiliary workers or home-based carers. It's a major concern down here, and I'd like to know why is communication with the council so difficult? Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tanya, for your questions and your concerns. Now we'll hand over to Mr. Richard September. Can you lower your hand, Tanya and Pumla, so that we can see the progress? Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Richard September.
Good morning, Program Director. My name is Richard September. In small background, in February, I tried to make a payment with the council and then I experienced a problem. I emailed the council or registrar on that, and a month later, I received the email to say I'm being deregistered. The reason stated that I'm being deregistered is that I did not complete my qualifications within the prescribed time. However, I'm still in studying. Currently, I'm still studying, doing my NQA5. I'm just waiting my letter from the service provider, which is the SACSSP. Here is my thing. If I get this letter, must I now still pay the 750 Rand when I am not in default of paying? I've been paying each and every year. So that is just my quick question around that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Richard, for your question. We'll go to the last one for this round to ask the question, Mr. Mboneni Innocent or Ms. Mboneni Innocent, over to you.
Morning. Morning, everyone.
Morning, Mr. Mboneni. You can go ahead.
Okay, my question is that I visited a council, and then I found out that I didn't have the results from school. I only had the results for a HWC. So, and I've already paid online, and my mistake was I paid as a professional social worker. I didn't pay as a CYCW child and youth care worker. Now I have the statement, my statement of result. So can I register online, or I have to come straight directly to the council? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mbonani, for your question. We'll revert back to you. You can lower your hand. From this point, we'll answer all the questions that have been asked, and then we'll come again to do the second round of questions and answers. Thank you. Can I have the first question?
Thank you, Program Director.
Registrar, your hand is up, and Ms. Malombo.
Okay. Program Director, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, ma'am.
Okay. Let us respond to some of the questions, and I think registrar and other managers will also come in providing some answers to the sector. Colleagues, one cannot shy away that SACSSP is on the transition phase. We are transiting as we are speaking, and registrants, I think they are aware of challenges that we had, that we are coming back, the inherited challenges that we are coming from. And our colleagues had also to bear in mind that as we are transiting, we are on a process of putting systems in place, improving on our communication. And colleagues, there's somebody who's also speaking, Chairperson, Program Director. Thank you for the silence. As I was saying that it is not a secret that council. Yeah, Chair, Program Director, that speaker, it keeps on distracting our thinking. Can she be muted so that we can assist in giving answers? But as I was saying, Program Director, we are on the transition phase, and with transition, there will be some changes that we need to effect on a management level. And as I've said, we cannot shy away that we had systems that were not talking to our sector. We struggled to communicate and other things like the one that has asked about the payments and all. But we are working on putting systems in place so that then we can meet the demands or the needs as presented by our colleagues or our registrants. Meaning we are putting systems to improve on our communication, and we will also give our emails to the sector for people to utilize it for now, as and when we are putting our systems in place so that they can send their emails to us directly. We will try and ensure that we respond. And since we are working together, as I've said in my presentation earlier, that we are in a relationship, colleagues, we need one another, and we need to be also patient and tolerant with one another so that we can have an effective council that will respond to your need. And I think by that I'm addressing the issues that says, why is it difficult to communicate with council? We had our problems, we had our system problems, we had our own internal issues that we are trying to correct and to say we need to improve in how we communicate with the sector. So we are busy working on that. The request would be, can the sector kindly be patient with us as and when we are moving in implementing or putting systems that will assist us to respond timeously to them with their challenges. And in terms of the total numbers, as asked by Ms. Fiona, we will give this verbal presentation to say we have deregistered 1,702 auxiliary child youth care workers. And the process that was embarked thereof was that it was done, it was subsequent to a legal opinion that was preferred to us and a council resolution that's subject to us notifying all the affected registrants, then a letter of removal will be issued to them. We have embarked on a project starting from as back as last year, where all the affected, after doing our internal assessment of people that their registration has lapsed and the ones that are being affected by sunset clause, notice of intention to be removed from the registers was submitted by November 20. Before November, it was submitted to all the affected in October 2023. My apologies for that. Remember, it was a project sunset clause. It had phases where we had to assess in the first phase, ensure that numbers are there, report back to the structures of council, keep on doing the project, implementing the project as per the phases. The last phase, which is phase 3, the one that I'm talking about, affected registrants were issued with notice of intention, all of them. And colleagues has to also remember that we issue communication to the last known address or contact method that council have on the register. If colleagues can remember, I said in my earlier presentation, we are struggling with the condition of deregistering people or people not informing council, updating their particulars. But what we did with what we have as the registrants' addresses, we sent emails to the affected. We also posted. We went as far as couriering all these letters to all the affected with that phase of notification. And all the 1702, which is 1,702 that were affected, the letters were delivered to themselves. And I'm not too sure, maybe registrar will also cover this one, where colleagues or registrants keep on saying they were not aware. I think in the presentation made by the board's chair, by the chairperson of the board, he did indicate that the sector was made aware of sunset clause, and that was years back. Departments, employers, everybody that is within the category was made aware that at some point there will be this process that SACSSP will embark on. It is just unfortunate that last year became the implementing year of sunset clause. So what then we did, notices were issued to all the affected, and before we could send the removal letters, we went back to the board as well. We informed the board and we were requested to say, we need to be verifying, we need to be communicating and engaging with the affected colleagues. We did as such. We did by sending them to say, can you kindly submit? Where we had a telephone number, we would call. Where we had an email, we will send an email. Some of the emails bounced back to us, and some of the letters that we sent, they also came back, they were returned to us. Hence, we are pleading with the sector even today to say it is imperative that one update their particulars on our registers so that people can get or can be previewed to all activities that are happening within SACSSP. I think I'm covering the question asked by Fiona, and also the question that is asked by Nokolo that says I'm deregistered. I found out that I'm being deregistered by now, and nobody has informed me. We were following all the processes as set by council and as approved also by the PBC, which is the Professional Board for Child Youth Care Workers. And it is not to say we just haphazardly implemented the process, colleagues. That needs to be corrected. We followed correct processes where notices were out and also the removal letters. And we can also safely say the ones that have been deregistered are approaching us, council, to come and explain. But prior to that, colleagues, I want to take us back to the webinar that we had in August 31st, 2023, where we were also as council stretching or reaching out to the category of child youth care workers, where we emphasized that we are professionalizing the category, and we were all in agreement that yes, the process needs to be done. And we were also saying we need to start now registering people with qualifications. And we were in agreement as the sector and SACSSP that each and every case shall be treated on its own merits. And that is exactly what transpired with this process of sunset clause. We can safely report to the category that along the processes of us deregistering people, we had sent communication and awaited feedbacks. And we got some feedbacks. Some other colleagues responded that they cannot study any further due to financial circumstances. Others reported to us that they are not interested in pursuing the profession anymore. And others also indicated to us that they are still studying. And colleagues, we want to report as SACSSP that each and every case was treated on its own merits and as per its own facts as submitted to us. To colleagues that said they were still studying, these colleagues were not removed from the register. They were treated as registrants that has been duly registered by council, and they were invoiced. And I want to believe that they also paid their annual fees on time. To the colleagues that were affected by sunset clause, those colleagues were not invoiced. So if they had paid, it simply says they have paid erroneously so. And in terms of clarifying whether they paid when the payment was late or what, I think Register will also clarify on that. But we want to safely say they were not invoiced the 1702 after all the processes were followed. So then they were then subjected to the deregistration process. Letters have been effected, letters were being issued, but we need to also inform the sector that for us to reach a final conclusion, that was done in November 2023 on the 14th, when after we've exhausted all the avenues to say we have called, we have waited, we have sought to say, can you kindly submit your document, your qualification, or any other reason in a form of a motivation to say why you should not be deregistered. We then embarked on a mass deregistration. Then from the total number, the 1,702 colleagues, that is the number that we have deregistered that did not adhere to or comply to the request that we've been sending of them submitting. Up until the last day, we took a decision to say now we have exhausted, we are now deregistering them. And I want to believe that I've covered that. In terms of the delays from HWCTA, as and when the affected approach us, SACSSP for intervening, because they came, we had met with several organizations. We have responded to several emails seeking assistance from SACSSP to say some of their employees have studied long time ago, but they're still struggling to get their certificates. And as SACSSP through the Office of the Registrar, we did have indeed a meeting with HWCTA where this concern was presented to them to say there are a number of CYC affected by the issuing of certificates by HWCTA. HWCTA did respond positively to say they will investigate the matter and then they will come back to council to report their findings and see how best perhaps we can assist those that are affected with them not receiving their certificates. So SACSSP did intervene on that matter of certificates. And the presentations will be submitted. I'm trying to cover. I think from my side, I've covered most of the issues that have been asked about deregistration, the deregistration process that unfolded within the category. Thank you, Program Director.
Thank you, Ms. Malombo. Most of the questions have been covered. You have covered almost the questions that have been asked. But before I can present these questions, I want to give an opportunity to the registrar. I saw his hand previously. Over to you, Registrar.
No, thanks, Program Director, and the chairperson of the Professional Board for Child and Youth Care Work, Mr. Ngonyama, the chairperson of the National Association of Child and Youth Care Work, Mr. Gallant, and the deputy chairperson, and members of the professional boards and members of council and child and youth care workers and colleagues from the SACSSP. I greet you all. The Program Director, let me assist in some of the questions that I've jotted them down. You will indicate if we jump some of the questions. But firstly, I would like to commend and appreciate the NSCCW for coming with the idea of a joint webinar. It assists some of us to understand the issues on the ground, and I can tell from where I'm sitting that we need more of these sessions until we drill down the system of the register for child and youth care workers and we get it right. The numbers are not that huge. We should get it right before end of this year. The first question that I've picked up, Chair, and some of these questions I took them from the chat bar or the chat box. There's a colleague who asked, when are we going to get our practice cards? And when do we get them as registered child and youth care workers? Now, by now, all social service professionals across the country who are eligible to register, they should be in possession of their practice card, because you should have paid the annual fee by the 1st of January and the latest by the 31st of March. So by now you should be in possession of your practice card. So if you are not in possession of your practice card, it could be that one is either you made the payment of the annual fee late, or the email address that you've provided us is not working, because you should have received your practice card via an email. Now, how can we sort out the issue of those who have not received their practice card yet? I've sent in the chat bar, I've sent the email address of Mr. Sitlendlovu, which is regtemp6@saccsp.co.za. So I kindly request anyone who has not received his or a practice card by now or today to send an email together with and use your registration number as a reference number, or in the subject line, request for practice card registration number, so and so that Mr. Sitlendlovu will assist you either by issuing you the practice card or tell you as to why you have not received your practice card by now. So that's how we can solve the issue quickly of the outstanding practice card colleagues. We're in June now. Everyone should be in possession of their practice. My question is, how do you practice without a practice card? Because that's what you need to produce as and when you go out doing your work as far as providing quality services to the people. So please use regtemp6@saccsp.co.za. Mr. Ndlovu will assist you. The presentation on the deregistration, Ms. Malombo has addressed that particular issue in terms of the people who are affected by the sunset clause. However, colleagues, let's clarify there are two different types or three different types of deregistration. The first one that is known to all of us, which we talk about it regularly, is those who are affected by the sunset clause. Now, there will be those who have not received the notice of removal from the register. And the only reason it could be because your email address or your contact details are not up to date on our register. But to say, which I hear Ms. Malombo, that's the only way we can do it. But it does not provide a solution to say that the email, we send the communication to the email address which is appearing on our register. That's what the law says, but the law sometimes it does not assist us. Can we be practical around this particular issue, colleagues of sunset clause, so that we can resolve it? And my appeal to everyone is that if you know that at the time you were registering with the SACSSP, you applied or you registered or you got registered with employment letter and job description, in one way or the other, you are affected by the sunset clause. Please, let's take responsibility, colleagues. Come forward. You know at this point in time that you got registered with this type of documents, and if you have registered with employment letter or job description, you are affected by the sunset clause. If you have not received the letter, please come forward to counsel. I've also populated the email address of the Professional Board for Child and Youth Care Work Secretary, Ms. Moleboheng Mila. You can use that particular email address. For now, I don't want to use the colleagues from registrations division colleagues, because we're at the stage now we need to verify as to actually what is happening with this issue of miscommunication and so forth. So if you know you've got registered with employment letter and job description, however, you have not received the notice of removal from the register, please reach out to us, because you are affected. And those who are in possession of the qualification and you were not aware that you need to submit them so that you are in good standing, please do so. The process of the deregistration as far as sunset clause collects is at the advanced stage, where you receive the letter that your name has been removed, and you feel that that decision is wrong, colleagues, because we are applying a legal process. That the letter that you received, it has a provision for a person to appeal that decision. For you to appeal does not mean you are fighting, you are exercising your right. So please, if you've received the letter that you have been removed from the register because of 1, 2, 3, 4, please appeal that decision if you remain aggrieved by that particular decision. However, if you feel that the decision is correct, you know the decision of council is correct for removing your name, you either accept it but stop practicing, or appeal, or accept and apply for restoration and submit the necessary documentation. That's what we need to do as far as sunset clause is concerned, colleagues, and we need to close that chapter at a particular point in time. And the second type of deregistration which may happen, which I requested the colleagues to put a pause on it to avoid the confusion, is the removal of the name of from the register for failure to pay the annual fee. So if you have not paid your annual fee for 2024 by 31st March this year, chances are that when we are going to start the deregistration of people now in July, August, September, we will be doing deregistration of people who have failed to pay the annual fee for 2024, 2025. Chances are we are going to remove your name from the register in terms of section 20, subsection 1, paragraph D. And when you receive that removal letter, and you have paid, because the other challenge that we are experiencing is that other colleagues, they pay the annual fee and they forget to indicate the reference number, which is there. You need to use your registration number. Then when you pay money to council and there's no reference number in the form of your registration number, we will not be able to identify where does that money come from. So it goes into what we call unidentified fees. So basically it means you have not paid the annual fee. So when you receive a letter that your name has been removed from the register, please come forward so that we can correct and locate the payment. You need to attach a proof of payment so that we can trace that particular payment for you, so that we can assist to update your annual fees on the register. The third type of deregistration that may take place is when we were subjected to a disciplinary process, which is what Ms. Madonsela presented, and the disciplinary committee imposed a penalty to say your name must be removed from the register. So far, we've been receiving a few number of complaints against child and youth care workers, a matter which I will talk to it later. So that is the third category where we can remove your name from the register. So if we have never subjected you to a disciplinary inquiry, please do not worry about the third one, but worry about the first one of sunset clause, the second one of failure to pay the annual fee. We need to sort out that issue. But in general, chairperson and chairpersons, I will call you the chairpersons today, for us to sort out the issue of the register, to update our register as far as child and youth care workers are concerned, we need to develop what we call this child and youth care worker sector landscape. And my appeal is that out of this meeting, we need to agree on a date where employers of child and youth care workers need to submit a list of all child and youth care workers in their employment by a particular date, so that we can verify as to whether these people do appear on our register, and if not, how do we assist them to learn. We are not going to punish anyone, colleagues. We will not punish anyone to say you are practicing illegally and so forth. What we need to do, we need to develop a sector landscape for the child and youth care workers so that we receive all the, because currently there's a dispensation with the Department of Social Development through bargaining council processes. Every year around October, or each year around October, they submit a list of all social service professionals who are employed by the Provincial Department of Social Development. We do the verification and we send it back to them to say these ones are in good standing, this one are not in good standing, they owe so much, and they make the bulk payments of annual fees, and we issue bulk practice cards to them. We print them and we send them to the provinces so that they can distribute those practice cards amongst the child and care workers who are employed by the Department of Social Development. The only ones who are practice cards are delayed the Department of Social Development in Limpopo, because they paid the annual fee in bulk around April this year. So the process took long for us to do the to do the capturing of the payments per child and care worker and per social auxiliary worker and social worker. So what I'm proposing is that for us to sort out issues of delayed payment, issues of a delayed practice card, issues of whether a person is registered or not, we can sort it out by agreeing to say we need to develop the sector landscape. We have the one for the Department of Social Development. Maybe I can just, while I'm still on the floor, just share the numbers with you. For example, in the Eastern Cape Department of Social Development, they have employed 119 child and youth care workers. You go to Free State is 96, Gauteng is 653, KZN is 192, Limpopo is 96, Mpumalanga is 93, Northwest is 135, Northern Cape is 163, Western Cape is 150, and the total there is 1,697 child and youth care workers employed by the Department of Social Development across the country. So if we do the same exercise with all the employers of child and youth care workers, we will submit a list, we agree on a date by when, we submit that list to the professional board for child and youth care secretary, Ms. Milwa. Then we do the necessary verification and we give you feedback per employer in terms of where we will sort out this problem, because currently our systems are still manual. It's difficult for you to retrieve your practice card. We have to generate the practice card manually and email it to you. Now, the fourth question, it was, can we extend the presentation to other professionals? And it links with another question which I captured to say, can we do the code of ethics workshop with managers? Basically, it's employers. I think it's question number 10 on my list. Now, that is possible, colleagues. My proposal or our proposal is that please, employers, invite us, or colleagues who are child and care workers, please coordinate yourself on the ground. Invite us on a particular date. We will come to your institution. We will basically physically come to your institution to come and do the code of ethics workshop, and basically all this representation that we did today. Invite us. We will come down to your province where in a particular quarter we do not have money. We will arrange a virtual workshop in this particular fashion. Please, the staff is ready for you to come and do the presentation. So I'm not exaggerating on this one. It's a reality that we need to do, because we need to go down to the ground and do this workshop so that we empower everyone who is working with our child and youth care workers. Because what is of my interest now, Chairperson, is that we need to encourage people who are affected by child and youth care workers who are doing the wrong things out there to be reported. We are receiving a lot of informal complaints against child and youth care workers, and people do not have the courage to come forward and report incidents where children are being abused and so forth. So we need to empower you so that you have the courage to come forward and report complaints of unprofessional or improper conduct against child and youth care workers, because part of our responsibility is to regulate the profession and the professionals. Question number 5, how will we know whether one or more of our staff members have been deregistered, as they would not be willing to reveal this information? And I want to believe that this also applies to child and youth, social workers and social auxiliary workers. Now, colleagues, each and every social service professional has the duty to produce his or registration certificate and the practice card as and when employer is looking for it, as and when a client is looking for it. No social worker, social auxiliary worker, and child care can be refused to provide those details or documents without making a copy, just showing the client. You have the duty to provide a client with your registration number so that they can verify with council or anyone as to whether you are registered with us and whether you are in good standing. So anyone who refuses to provide proof of registration, somebody is flighting some other things, whoever is responsible for sharing of information, please. Thank you. So any social service professional who refuses to produce proof of registration with the SACSSP, that colleague will be contravening the rules as far as the rules relating to the acts or omissions are concerned. You have the duty and the obligation as a social service professional to produce the proof that you are registered, unless if you do not have the practice card because of the delay on our side, that is something else. But you have the duty to provide a client or the employer with the registration, with your registration number, so that they can verify as to whether indeed you are registered. So they cannot refuse colleagues. If they do refuse, please report those colleagues who are refusing to produce or to provide you with their registration numbers. How long does it take for the SACSSP to come back to child and youth care workers about their student registration? And it also links to the question that was asked by Tanya. That is question number 16 on my side. Tanya from Quebec, that she sent emails to council, and why is communication with council so difficult? Now, colleagues, let's do this practical exercise. Anyone who sent an email to council and that email has not been responded to by today, please forward that email communication or those email communication to the professional board for child and youth care secretary, Mr. Mulego, so that we can trace as to where did those emails go to and why did those colleagues did not respond to those emails. Colleagues, let's just do practical exercise. Please, by now, as I'm talking to you, colleagues, please forward any email that you've sent to council and has not been responded to the professional board for child and youth care work secretary, so that we can attend to those emails, but also engage the colleagues who are responsible for those emails to engage them as to why they did not respond to those emails. Probably it was on the junk email, or probably a colleague ignored that particular email. We don't know. We will establish, but at the end of the day, it is our responsibility to respond to those particular queries that we have sent already and future emails that we will send to us, because we need to inspire confidence in terms of the system. So in a nutshell, when you send an email to council, at least within 48 hours, we should acknowledge that email. Even if we can't assist you there and then, we should acknowledge that particular email within 48 hours. In terms of registration queries, where you have applied for registration, it should at least take 30 days for us to inform you as to whether you are eligible for registration or not. So that is what we need to do. And I'm raising this issue because there are colleagues who are responsible for registrations who have connected now. Colleagues, okay, let's get the message. For 8 hours, 30 days, we should be able to give responses to colleagues in terms of their registration status, so that we don't have now and then queries that we are not responding to the sector's emails or queries. Now, how long does it take to sort out the restoration process? So the restoration process, it differs, and sometimes it will take long. I don't think most child and care workers will be affected by the dispensation that we've put in place. So if you have been deregistered for more than 5 years, you apply for restoration, you need to go through the restoration panel and appear before the restoration panel interview. They will subject you to an interview. But if you have been deregistered and you have not been practicing in less than 5 years, your restoration should be what we call a straightforward restoration. So we need to respond to you within 30 days. So if there's any pending restoration application that you've made and it has not been responded to, please send those application or that email that you forwarded to us to the secretary so that we can make follow-up. Secretary, I'm referring to the Professional Board for Child and Youth Care Work Secretary, so that we can, from the Office of the Registrar, monitor those queries so that they can be attended to as soon as possible. The auxiliary child and youth care who work under the supervision of a professional, no, the auxiliary child and youth care workers colleagues, they must work independently and they can work independently. Remember, there is a scope of practice for child and youth care workers at auxiliary level. There is a scope of practice for child and youth care workers at professional level. The common cause is that in an institution, there must be a supervisor, there must be a team leader, but there's no provision, colleagues, that an auxiliary child and youth care worker must work under the supervision of a social worker. I mean, my apology, of a child and youth care worker at professional level, because if we were to do that, I can tell you we don't have much. If you can see the numbers that Ms. Malombo has presented, we are having 228 child and youth care workers registered at professional level, and we're having over 9,000 child and care workers registered at auxiliary level. So if we were to say people must work, auxiliary child and care workers must work under the supervision of a child and care worker registered at professional level, it will not be realistic. It's not practically possible, but there's no provision for that, colleagues. There's a scope for each category at professional level and at auxiliary level, and those colleagues can work independently. Common cause that under the supervision of somebody. Even an auxiliary child and care worker can supervise a group of child and also auxiliary child and care worker in the respective workplace. So it's important because supervision is not about that the person is incompetent. No, we need to support one another, take into consideration the nature of services that we are realizing is to provide social services colleagues. When you work as a team and you work under the supervision of somebody, it assists you to avoid doing wrong things at the end of the day. You end up being reported at the SACSSP. Now, question number 8, the issue of police clearance. Do we have an MOA with the subs? We do not have one at this stage, and we know the challenge, colleague, that it's a frustrating cause for concern for you as and when you need it. It's one of the way forward that we roll resolution or decisions of this webinar that we take forward, that council should explore entering into MOA with the South African Police Service around this issue of the police clearance. So we note that, colleague. Question number 9. Outstanding certificate from Health and Welfare Center. Ms. Malombo has addressed that issue, but safe to say, colleagues, we are in the process. We had a meeting with Health and Welfare Center, and one of the issues that we raised is this issue of outstanding certificate that Health and Welfare Center has raised. Though, as a matter of principle, or their preliminary view was that they do not have any outstanding certificate that must be issued to child and care workers. So because it's us who are making that allegation in the meeting. So we made an undertaking that we will provide you with the list of child and care workers who are affected and their certificate are still outstanding. So a submission has been made by the office, by the registrations division to the office of the registrar, and likely I delayed submitting those names to the Health and Welfare State deliberately because of this webinar. So our appeal is that if there's anyone who is affected by the issue of outstanding certificate from Health and Welfare State, please submit your names to the Professional Board for Child and Care Secretary, Ms. Mula, so that we can include those names in the draft submission that we already received from Registration Division, so that your name can be part of those people that must go to Health and Welfare Center, so that Health and Welfare Center investigate as to where are those particular certificates and they assist you. Question number 10, it was relating to Code of Ethics workshop for managers. We responded to that one when we're dealing with question number 4. Now, question number 11, what happens to child and care workers who registered in 2019 but never received their certificate as a student. Now I want to believe is part of this issue of the health and welfare sector. If it's not, please clarify, colleague. But if it is part of the challenges that we experience with health and welfare sector, please submit your name so that we can add your name on the list that is going to the health and welfare sector to investigate outstanding certificates. I've received an email that I'm deregistered but never received a communication that I must submit documents. Now, colleague, please forward us that email. Because I find it strange that you would have received an email saying your name has been deregistered, but we never received guidance in terms of how to take the process forward. Please forward that email again to the Professional Board for Child and Youth Care Work Secretary so that we can understand what was that email all about, and we advise you in terms of the next step that we need to take. But in principle, like I've said earlier on, if you are affected or registered with the employment letter and job description, you are affected by the sunset clause. Let's do the right thing, which is produce your qualification, because others, they did went to school, but they forgot to submit to update their details with the SACSSP, but they were not aware that they need to update their details with the SACSSP. So if you are in possession of the qualification, please send it to us so that we can do the correct thing and restore you. So those who will appeal as far as the sunset clause is concerned and you attach the relevant qualification, the principle that we are going to do, we are not going to subject your matter to the whole appeal process. We look into it and do what we call rectification of your name on the register, just a matter of rectifying that removal that we've made to say, no, but this one, there's no need to submit the list to the minister. She is in possession of the qualification. We just do the necessary rectification and we will issue a letter of rectification in that regard to say your name is appearing on the register. Then question number 13, what is the process of sending CPD points? Now I'm going to request the acting ETD manager to populate her email address, her work email address, and that of Ms. Bembe in the chat bar, so that any CPD related questions can be directed there, so that we take those issues of CPD points forward. But the principle is that, colleagues, if you had a presentation, is that you need to acquire certain CPD points per year, and the professional level, a minimum of 15 points, and at auxiliary level, you need to obtain or acquire a minimum of 10 points per year. So we need to take the issue of continued professional development seriously and make it fashionable, colleagues. But in relation to queries, please, please populate your email address so that you can take the discussion forward. What will happen to people who are deregistered but they are in the middle of their studies? Our approach there is that if you are affected by a sunset clause, however you are studying, or by the time we deregister you, you were studying, or after you received the letter, you took the letter seriously and went to enroll for the qualification, we are proposing, or we adopted the approach to say we will register you as a student so that you don't lose your registration status. So you will be deregistered for the purpose of for auxiliary child and youth care worker, but the process that when you come back after your qualification, we will do what we call restoration. You don't have to start afresh. So we will treat you as a student and register you as such. And when you come back, we do the restoration process. You don't have to start afresh. As soon as you produce your qualification, which is the NQF level 4 or the NQF level 5, or whatever qualification that you produce, which is above the employment letter and the job description. I would like to know, for the child and youth care worker who haven't received any message or emails but who are already deregistered, how are they going to get help? As I've indicated, send an email, but the principle is that by now you know where you stand. If you registered with employment letter or job description, you know, please come forward, even if you do not receive the letter, so that we can assist you. I spoke about the email address of the Professional Board for Child and Youth Care Secretary. Please use that email address. Must I continue to pay money while deregistered? No, please do not pay any money to cancel while you are deregistered until you get an indication that you must pay the restoration fee and so forth. So please do not pay money, because those who have paid the annual fees and however they received notice of removal, colleagues, we did not invoice you. Then it was clear that the reason why we did not invoice you, because you are not eligible to pay the annual fee. But if you have paid the annual fee and you are still interested to practice, you need to sort out the restoration process first before we can recognize that particular annual fee. However, if you are looking for a refund, we can do that process, because we are not allowed to keep monies in our account which are not belonging to us. It's not legal for us to do that. So we can either do the refund or do the process of the restoration, so that we can quickly recognize that annual fee as soon as possible. Must I continue to pay? I've responded to this one. Can I register online, or I need to come to SACSSP offices? It depends. If you are outside Gauteng, colleagues, I would urge you to use the online system. And where you are experiencing challenges, then you send them the email communication queries to Ms. Nkeba, who is part of the team that is responsible for registration. However, if you are around Gauteng and you can access our offices easily, you can come to our offices. They will take you to what we call a kiosk. They will assist you to register online. But the same system that you use at home is the same system that we are going to use when we are in the office. But I believe when you are in the office, it can even be much easier, because when you are struggling, we can assist you on the spot. Colleague Desiree Einstein or Anderson raised the issue around that you paid in September, you received a sunset clause letter, paid 250, a restoration fee of 762, and no response to date. So Desiree, colleague, please forward that email to the Professional Board for Child and Care Secretary, so that we can trace where did it land, and why that person did not respond or entertain that particular email. Pilile, we would like to know regarding the certificate for child and youth care workers. Is it possible for them to get statement of results since they have been competent from 2018? This year, we were told to submit their email so that they can receive it, but to date, nothing has been done. So I believe this is part of the challenge that we are experiencing with the health and welfare sector. Please send your names there to the Professional Board for Child and Youth Care Work. Then we will add your name to the list that is going to the health and welfare sector. Program Director, these are the questions that I've captured from my side. Unless I've missed some of them, then we can bring them to our attention so that we can respond to them. Other than that, if we've answered everything or responded to almost everything, then we can take the second set of hands.
Thank you so much, Registrar. From my side, you've answered almost every question that has been asked, even those who've been on the chat box. I think from this point in time, and we are hoping that we've been answered from the responses from Ms. Malombo, the registration manager, and the registrar, Mr. Hitler Sekitla. From this point, we'll take another round of hands, clarity-seeking questions. There was Pumla that I've omitted. I'm not sure if Pumla, you are still in this webinar. I wanted to give you first because I've omitted that hand on the first round. If Pumla is not here, I'll give an opportunity to Gloria. Gloria, over to you to ask a question.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Let me greet everyone. To me, it's actually a thank you, a sense of appreciation, and maybe a clarity or a question. I want to say thank you very much, Program Director, for a smooth sailing of for the smooth sailing that you've given us this opportunity to be able as child and youth care workers to form part on this massive information that you've given us on this webinar. Okay, in terms of the webinar, actually you've unlocked other issues that were affecting us as child and youth care workers. In terms of this presentation, in terms of accessing them, I will appreciate if we get this presentation in a booklet form and include all the email addresses that speaks about deregistration, that speaks about not only deregistration, but also that speaks about child and youth care workers when they do misconduct in the workplace, and also restoration part. And also in terms of child and youth care workers, whom most of us are in the auxiliary level, there is a struggle whereby we are not moving forward in terms of our growth and development. So hence we knew that on our side, the department promised us for level 5 to have a certificate of level 5, but government is giving us at the same time bursaries were in our workplace, and it's something that they give us on a year basis annually. So, but I would really like to advocate for bursaries also to be given in the portfolio of child and youth care work, because now child and youth care workers are starting to move away from their profession, but rather studying what is being given to them, like to study for public management, or to study to become a lawyer or a social worker or a psychologist. So those are the elements that I would like our board or our council actually to acknowledge, so that we can all of us, we can be on the par of level 8, because I believe it's been too long as child and youth care workers being on level 5. So we would like the other institutions to be invited actually, so that they can facilitate, like the varsities, the colleges, to facilitate actually this profession, to ensure that really we are able to study online regarding to having a degree or a diploma in child and youth care work. Also, I want to thank our province office, DSD, here in Kimberley, Northern Cape, because of they are very supportive when it comes to issues of child and youth care workers being not really being degraded, but to receive a message or an email that says you'll be degraded, and we will work in the moment, and they will give us support, and the response will be positive from the council board. So we appreciate that, and we appreciate everybody from DSD Kimberley who plays such a significant role to ensure as child and youth care workers we stay on par in terms of ensuring we are registered annually and also on time, and also in terms of the certificates that shows that indeed we did pop monies for our registration. We don't get all of our certificates, so I will also appreciate that if we could get certificate, all of us, because of what DSD did in Kimberley is to ensure that all of us who are working in the government sector, they deduct monies every year during January month, and it will reflect on our salary advice. So I think that makes us actually to become competent in ensuring that we comply to the council. So I think those are my questions, but the one that I emphasize mostly is that one of the booklet, those presentations to be in a booklet form, but because the sequence, everything, the information is there. Sometimes we don't need even to email for counsel if we have this booklet, because the answers for our questions are already here in the presentations. So I think also it will save time at the end of the day. Those are my questions, and a big thank you at the same time for this platform.
Thank you so much, Gloria. And we really appreciate the work that has been done by DSD in ensuring that all child and youth care workers in Northern Cape are on par. In terms of, let me take questions. Yeah, number 2, you can lower your hand, Gloria. Can we go to the next speaker? Klein is, my apologies for incorrect pronunciation. Gloria, thank you very much. You can lower your hand. We'll go to the next speaker, which is gonna be Klainis, and my apologies for the pronunciation. Over to you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Program Director. My name is Glennis Africa. I'm based in the Northern Cape. I'm referring to the sunset clause. I'm a registered social auxiliary worker, but I practice as a CYCW. I just want to know what will happen to us who are registered as a social auxiliary worker, but practice as CYCs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Klainis. You can lower your hand. We've taken note of your question. We'll move to Janine.
Thank you very much. Just a quick question. I just want to know, are there any repercussions for both the child and youth care worker and the employer who still employs child and youth care workers who have been deregistered or who are struggling to get registered for whatever reason, whether it's the HWCTA or the deregistration or whatever it is? Are there implications for the employer who continue to employ these people? And are there implications for the child and youth care workers who continue to practice as child care workers when they're not registered?
Thank you very much, Janine. We've taken your question. You can lower your hand. We are moving to Marit. My apologies for pronunciation. Over to you, Marit. Marit, over to you, ma'am. You're on the floor. You can ask your question.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly, ma'am.
Thank you, thank you. I'm just referring to the previous presentation on the request of HWCTA that we need to submit the names of outstanding certificates. Just first of all, please explain to me, I did understand that one correct.
That one was meaning to those people who never received the HWCTA certificates. We request all the child and youth care workers to write a list to the Board of Child and Youth Care Workers so that they can be assisted with HWCTA certificates. I'm not sure.
Okay, I just want to clarify. So there's a memorandum from HWCTA. I just want to quickly check the date, 16 April 2024, where they clearly acknowledge their inability to issue certificates. So from CIFA as a provider, I can confirm that we are waiting on lots of certificates from HWCTA, and I don't think it's fair that the onus is once again on us to submit those names. They need to sort out the issue and print the certificates.
Noted, ma'am. You can lower your hand. The next speaker, Nozipo, over to you.
Just wanted to find out how long does the process of changing from child and youth care auxiliary level to child and youth care professional level takes?
Noted, Nozipo. You can lower your hand. We shall come back to you. I will hand over to Silence Paloi. Nozipo, you can lower your hand. Thank you.
Good morning, colleagues, the board and registrar. Am I audible? Chairperson?
Yes, you're audible. Silence.
Mine is not a very big question, but it's a concern. When it comes to issue of the registration, I think when we're talking about the registration, we're talking about the legislation which require people to be informed, to be formally informed. And I think if we're failing to reply to the emails of the people, we're failing the people. In that sense, automatically tells us that we are not talking to the people that we're saying we're representing as a board, the council and the board. I'll propose that the board have road shows and or regional or provincial meetings to where the child and youth care workers are. If you check here, we've got 161 people who are participants in this meeting. Unfortunately, the child and youth care workers that we're advocating or we're talking about, they're not here in this meeting. But we are proceeding and then saying that we are going to register people and going to do this and that. And then even the meeting that we are referring to very much important that the board go to the people and talk to the people who have elected them.
Mr. Baloyi, we've lost you. Can you repeat what you've just said, the second point?
Okay, the second point is that the board should go to the people so that they can have meetings with the people where they are, unlike here having online meetings. So my advice is that the board should go to the regions or the provinces where the child and youth care workers are, so that they can be able to speak to the challenges of the child and youth care workers where they are. And then my third question is the issue of the people or the companies or the service providers who are not providing the documentation for the child and youth care workers who have completed their studies and everything. So what is the board or the council doing about the same service providers? Just because the same service providers are continuing to provide services by they're not even assisting in terms of submitting the same documentation which are required when one need to register. Thank you.
Well noted, Mr. Baloyi. You can lower your hand. We've taken your questions. I'll hand over to Ms. Fiona. I saw her hand before this one. Over to you, Ms. Fiona.
Yes, thank you. Just regarding the registrar's comment around the letter of submission that will go to HWCETA, could we ask for a circular to come through that just highlights that point that you're requiring all the names? Because it will be good for us to have a deadline date so that we know that we can motivate as many people who need to put their names onto that list to have it done before their deadline and submission to HWCETA. And also maybe to hold HWCETA accountable to a deadline date for response as well, because that's been the biggest challenge, is getting the HWCETA to respond. As much as they're saying that they cannot give us a certificate at this point, neither are they giving us the statement of results. So at least if they can commit to giving that by certain deadline as well. Thank you.
Noted, Ms. Fiona. I will hand over to Tapsile to ask the question. Tapsile, over to you again.
Oh, hello, everybody. I just want to ask here, I want to know that my practice register said it is expired on the 31st March 2024. But I've paid on the 10th January 2024. Just want to know that is it possible that they can deregister me why I paid on the 10th January 2024? Thank you.
Thank you, Tapsile. You can lower your hand. Over to you, to Esther, to ask the question. Esther, over to you. Tapsile, you can lower your hand.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I greet the board and everybody who is part of this session, including the registrar. I just wanted to appreciate this session, first of all. I think we have learned a lot. I am a practicing child and youth care worker working in a SACSSP environment, so under the department. I wanted to appreciate this session, firstly, to say we have learned a lot. I think this information is more important to all child and youth care workers out there. With that being said, I also have a little concern. I've heard the presentation that talked more on the numbers of child and youth care workers, the professional level, the auxiliary level, and all that. And I was just thinking to say, if we are having, I know the register touched on that and explained it in a very clear manner. But I also have a concern to the numbers of professional child and youth care workers, or rather, let me say child and youth care workers on the professional level. And I just wanted to check from the council, from the board to say, what is the plan? Because now if we are going to be having a very lower number of child and youth care work in professional level, where is the gap? What does it say? Does it mean child and youth care workers are not studying? Does it mean the profession itself is stagnant? It's not moving? Because isn't it that there is always a career path in each and every profession? So what does it mean in child and youth care if we've got more on auxiliary level and we only have few at professional level? What does it mean about the profession itself? So I just wanted to check that, and also to try and check if there is any other plan. Is there a research going on? Is there something going on behind the scenes to try and check where lies the problem, or what are the remedial actions? What is it that can be done, at least to make it easier? Because I honestly don't believe that it's happening, probably because people are not acquiring. We've got a lot of universities that are also offering this study, DUT and the likes. They do have this. We've got people with diplomas. We've got people with those NQF level 7 that we were talking about in child and youth care specifically. But the registration process to that professional level becomes very difficult. I just don't know what is it that the council can do. Maybe it's just a humble plea to say, maybe let's try and engage and look into methods or ways in which it can be more accessible or more open or easier for people to get to that category. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Esther. We acknowledge your question. From this point in time, we'll give opportunity to Mareki. Over to you, to Mareki Fande.
Thank you so much. Just referring to Fiona's comment on the HWCTA, and I just want to seek clarification from council. So in our case, we have received the HWCTA statement of results, but the Neuron system specifically requires there's also a space for the learner to upload your HWCTA certificate. So my understanding is that learners cannot register only with the statement of results, and they definitely need the HWCTA certificate as well. So please just correct me if I don't have that right.
Noted, Ms. Mariki. We'll revert back to you. Can I take the next hand from System Manager, PCH? Over to you, System Manager.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Program Director. I would just like to ask about the appeal process. We had a child and youth care worker who was deregistered, but she had a HWCTA certificate, and we had sent in her documents, and then we resent the documents. But we were told that we need to do the restoration. Even when we try to appeal, when we try to write an appeal letter stating the whole process from the time she registered with the job description and appointment letter, and then she got her certificates some years ago, and we've sent all those things. But it was like the restoration process was the only way to go. We ended up just paying the restoration because then she was going to lose her job. But that's where we are. So we didn't understand when and how do we appeal, and which cases can we appeal. And yeah, the how part of it, we could not understand it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, System Manager. I didn't get your name though. Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry. My name is Ropa. I'm the childcare manager for Ropa.
Yes, it's Ropa. Okay. Thank you very much, Ropa. Are there any other questions, seeking clarity questions, comments before we can hand over for the answering of our questions? Are there any questions? Is there anyone that you are? I can see there is Tumisani Shabangu. You can shoot, Mr. Shabangu.
Thank you, ma'am. Greeting to everyone present. I wrote on the chat box that how often should we update our contact details from the council? And also, if it's possible to have provincial offices in our province to address of these various challenges that we are facing in terms of registering and deregistering of our profession. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shabangu. Ropa from City Manager, you can lower your hand if you are done. And thank you very much, Mr. Shabangu. We've taken note of your question. Is there anyone who wants to ask whether Nosipo Grace, Mr. Shabangu and City Manager, can you kindly please lower your hands so that we can see the progress of our questions? Nosipo Shazi, not Lolo, Nosipo. Grace, over to you. My apologies. Nosipo. Nosipo, are you there? Maybe she will come at a later stage. Can we give it to Miss Shazi? Miss Shazi, yes, your hand is still up. Miss Shazi, you can ask the question.
Mine was to find out.
Miss Shazi, you're not here. You're not here, Miss Shazi. Miss Shazi.
Can you hear me?
You are not here, ma'am. Can you repeat again?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you clearly now.
Okay. My question was to check on the progress of the online system, because the last time I checked, there were some challenges and I received an email that was saying that it will be sorted and there will be communication when the online system is okay, to a point that I ended up receiving a reference letter instead of getting my certificates and practice card. So I just wanted to do a follow up on the online system, on how far is it with regards to it being fixed, because I believe that it's more convenient rather than traveling to the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Shazi. Before you can hang up, if I can get a clarity on your question, in which category maybe were you experiencing challenges in terms of online?
It's for the professional category. I was upgrading from being an auxiliary child and youth care worker, and then I submitted my POE. I was found to be competent, and then it was the professional one. So all I received so far was a reference letter because it was needed at work.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. We got that one correctly. Thank you. You can lower your hand. System Manager, can you lower your hand so that we can see if we still have other questions? Yeah, we do not have any questions so far. I will hand over to Registrar, to the managers present here, the Board of Child and Youth Care Workers, and the chairperson of National Association for Child and Youth Care Workers for answering of questions. Thank you. Over to you.
Thanks, Program Director. I will take some of the few questions, but some of them are engagement issues. In particular, the comment or the view around the gap or the observation around the gap between the child and youth care workers registered at professional level and those who are registered at auxiliary level. And get the chairperson of the professional board for child and youth care work, and also the chairperson of the NSCCW will also come in there, and also the chairperson will engage on some of the questions or comments which are directed to the professional board for child and youth care work. Now, the issue of registered persons who are registered as social auxiliary workers but practicing as child and youth care workers, I'm interested to know what happened there, because it is not allowed. Since from 2014, you were supposed to register as a child and youth care worker and practice as such. So, colleagues, I'm not sure what happened there, but you can't practice as a child and youth care worker if you are not registered as a child and youth care worker. You can't practice as a social auxiliary worker if you are not registered as a social auxiliary worker. The same applies to social work. So it could be because of the administration challenges there in your department or organization, but they need to be sorted out. So, but the principle is that you can only register for the profession for which you are registered for. Now, Janine, are there repercussions of employers who are continuing to employ persons who are not registered? Yes, there are implications. If you listen to the presentation which was made by Ms. Malombo and also the acting professional conduct manager, Ms. Anna Madonsel, the implications are there. Practicing without registration is a criminal offense, colleagues. And in the event that we as council will open a criminal case against that person who's practicing illegally, or employer who is employing persons who are not registered, the implications that we might end up with a criminal offense. But we have not been hard on this issue, and the longer we take postponing for enforcing this element of people who are registered without registration, it undermines the profession of child and youth care work. There's a point where we need to agree, colleagues, that we need to put a stop into a process where we are allowing people to practice without registration. But like I'm saying, we have not been hard on that, but there are legal implications in terms of a person may end up with a criminal offense. But on the professional conduct side, if you had Ms. Madonsela's presentation, it constitutes unprofessional or improper conduct on the part of a person who employs a person who is not registered with the SACSSP. So we follow the criminal route, we follow the unprofessional conduct route, and lay a complaint of unprofessional or improper conduct against the supervisor, the manager, and the head of the institution that are employing a person who is not registered. So that is the implications from criminal side, the element side, and also from the professional conduct side. There are repercussions, but like I'm saying, we have not been enforcing it, but we'll get to a point where as council we have the capacity to do that and take necessary action against people who are practicing without registration. Now, however, there's another colleague who raised an important issue to say, but in some of the instances, registration is being delayed by you, council, because we are not responding to our emails, we are not attending to our queries. That is that is an issue that we need to take responsibility for as the SACSSP. However, a person who, if you go to section 15, subsection 3 of the Social Service Professions Act, a person who has applied to register and his or her application is under consideration, but provided you have the necessary qualification. If you have submitted your application to council and it's still under consideration, you may continue to practice. So it's what we call the exception provision, because section 15 prohibits any person to practice without registration. However, if you have submitted your application with the necessary relevant qualification for you to be eligible to register, and we are delaying, we take it that your application is under consideration, you can continue practicing with the understanding that within a reasonable period, council will sort out your registration issues. But if you do not have the eligible, the recognized qualification as provided for in the regulations for registration of child and youth care workers, you cannot practice and say, no, I was still in the process of registering and so forth and so forth. Only if there's evidence that you've submitted your application and council is taking long or council is still considering your application, you can start looking for employment, and while we sort out your registration issues. Now, there seems to be different views, colleagues, around whether people must submit the list, their names, so that council can assist them to submit the list to health and welfare center, in particular those who are affected by outstanding registration, qualifications or certificates. Now, and I want to align myself with the view that Fiona presented, that we issue a general notice. So Fiona in her language calls it a circular. So in our language, we call it a general notice, inviting people who are affected by outstanding certificates by health and welfare center to submit by a particular date. But however, there was another colleague who was saying about health and welfare center on the 16th of April 2024, they've issued a notice acknowledging why must we submit the list. My view is that let's submit the list, colleagues, so that we put pressure on them, the health and welfare center, to do what is right by our child and youth care workers. It won't kill anyone. So they acknowledge the problem. The acknowledgement of their problem, they are not specifying that Peter and Paul and Maria, the registration certificates are outstanding. So the best way is for us to compile the list. It won't kill anyone. Then we submit it to ask them for them to see the damage, because this is a huge damage, colleagues, that they are causing by not issuing the certificate on time. The implications of them delaying, and that list will assist them to work under pressure to ensure that they assist us as soon as possible. So that will be my view on that one. Yeah, Program Director, I missed the question from Nosipo. You will give it to us towards the end. There's a question by Mr. Baloy, Comrade Baloy. I worked with Mr. Baloy sometime in another life when we were still shop steward and so forth. Now he still have that voice of representing workers. We appreciate that, Mr. Baloy. However, on this one of the deregistration, colleagues, the issue of sunset clause, I think we've engaged on this matter for some time now. I don't think there's any child and youth care worker in the country who is not aware of the child and youth care work sunset provision. We've engaged on it. That's why we also today spend some time on it. So the message is that if there are colleagues who might be affected and are not in this platform today, colleagues, let's send out the message to them. And it goes in line with the proposal that I made earlier on to say, can we embark on the process of developing the sector landscape? Can each and every workplace or organization where we have child and youth care workers, can we submit the names of those colleagues to the professional board for child and youth care secretary, so that we verify on our database or registers as to what is happening? Then we'll come back to that person and say this is the case. So if we can do this in a coordinated fashion, Mr. Barlow, let's organize ourselves on the ground, compile the list of all child and youth care workers across the country, except those who are employed by the Department of Social Development, because we do have that list already. Any institution where we have employed child and youth care workers, please compile the list of child and youth care workers, submit to the SACSSP so that we verify the person's registration status, then we assist as to where you are. If you are not in good standing, we must come back to you and advise you as to what needs to happen, and we will work through the person who have submitted that list to us to give you the message in terms of what is happening. But if it comes to an individual confidential matter, we will request the contact details of that particular specific person and engage him or her her directly, because at this point in time, I can inform we will not have the financial resources, which is something that we need to do in future for the professional boards to go on the ground. The only way we can meet you colleagues is through the virtual platforms. We don't have provision for financial provision for us to go on the ground to go and address the issue of CYCs, which we believe it was discussed on several occasions. So let's find other ways of ensuring that the message gets to our colleagues who might be affected. The question as to what is the board doing with the service providers who are delaying in terms of issuing the certificates and so forth. That is part of the engagement that we had. Last year, December, we had a meeting with the service providers who are providing NQF level 4 and those who have started with the NQF level 5 qualification. And when we're listening to them, most of the challenges, they were related to the delays on the part of Health and Welfare SETA and QCTO. So that's why it led us to this process that we are in now in terms of engaging Health and Welfare SETA directly to try to sort out this issue of outstanding certificate. And in addition to that, the other problem that they raised the problem around the issuing of the results, that the results are taking long to a point where some students who might have not even succeeded, by the time they're supposed to re-register, it's already in the middle of the year. They don't know what to do. So we are engaging with the relevant stakeholders on this issue of the delays, be it of the results or be it of the certificates. I spoke to the issue of the proposal by Fiona. I think we should take it as part of the way forward, that we issue a circular or a general notice inviting everyone who might be affected by the outstanding certificate from Health and Welfare SETA to submit their names. The circular will specify the timeline within which you need to submit the names. I also missed the question, Chairperson, by TAPS. I only had paid on the 10th of January 2024. I could not grasp it there. The question by Esther, what is the plan to close the gap between child and youth care workers at professional level and child and youth workers at auxiliary level? I think the chairperson of the professional board will also talk to this particular issue. I'll leave it to him, and whether we've conducted research and so forth. I missed the question from Mariki. And another question is when and how do you appeal the sunset clause? So the process is simple, colleagues. We just write a letter and say, I'm aggrieved by the decision that you took to remove my name from the register. Therefore, appealing that decision and say, here's the evidence that I qualify to be registered as a child and youth care worker at auxiliary level. So we need to produce evidence that you are eligible to be registered at auxiliary level. The process that we are going to do, which I said to the registrations manager to say, those who have been deregistered and they are in possession of the relevant qualification, but they omitted to submit and update their registration status at some point, we are not going to subject them to the entire appeal process. It's just a matter of us sitting, convening the board and agree to do what we call the rectification, because it's not much as we can say it was not your fault, but it's also your fault because you went to study. You knew that you're supposed to register with a job, qualification. You were given an opportunity to go do that and obtain that qualification. You obtained it, but you omitted to come back to council to say, this is where I am. So what we do the rectification process, you do not need to apply for restoration. So that's what we need to do. In the event that indeed you don't have a qualification, you're still going to obtain a qualification and you did not appeal. When you come back, you must apply for registration. It can't be restoration, colleagues. You must apply for what you call a registration. It's not restoration. So that is how the process is up, meaning that you're supposed to pay the registration fee and not the restoration fee. How often should child and youth care workers update their details? As and when your particulars changes, you need to update with us within 3 months of those particular changes. So it depends. If you change your email addresses 4 times a year, you need to update. If you move from point A to point B around terms of physical and your postal addresses, you need to update your details with us within 3 months of that particular change. Then how can we have provincial offices so that we address all these issues that are affecting social service professionals? I'll broaden that question. Yeah, it's some of the issues that the SACSSP is grappling with. For now, is issue of the finances. We do not have the financial muscles to open provincial offices. That is why we embark on what we call the provincial roadshows, to say as and when we have finances for road shows, we do that. But for now, I can tell you there's no provision for us to be able to open even a single provincial offices. But it's one of the issues that the council is grappling with, to say we need indeed provincial offices so that we are closer to the people that we are servicing. There was a suggestion of a booklet for child and care workers matters. We will work on that, but in the meantime, we will share the presentations that we have made to date. What is the progress on the online system, in particular around the issue of promotion from this particular profession to another profession? It is still a challenge, colleague. We are working with the service provider to assist us so that we can deal with this. It's a technical issue, that a functionality on the system that a service provider just needs to sort it out. So we do have challenge with that particular service providers, and those are the administrative challenges that council needs to sort out. Gloria, immediately the beginning of the second round of questions, we really appreciate, and I must echo the sentiments by the chairperson or the program director. We really appreciate what Northern Cape DSD is doing by ensuring that they offer bursaries to our child and care workers so that they can start. The information that we can share with you, colleagues, is that in the meeting that we held with the Health and Welfare Center, we made a proposal to them, which they've considered or accepted or welcome, to say they will assist us. We made a proposal to say we are having child and care workers who are affected by the sunset clause. And there are those who are interested to study and obtain the relevant qualification so that they can continue registering with us and be able to practice the profession of child and care workers. And we sought funding from the Health and Welfare Center, so they are amenable to our request to fund the project. Any person or child and care worker who's affected by the sunset clause has been deregistered and is willing to study for the relevant qualification. And in this case, I can tell you they have to be NQF level 5 because NQF level 4 has been phased out. So they are amenable to that request. They requested that we submit the list, the names of the child and youth care workers who are affected by the sunset clause, those who are interested to study. So registration has started working on the process. They've made a submission to the office of the registrar. We will be making a submission of the list of those people. Firstly, preliminary, those who are affected. And second phase, it will be those who are willing or interested to study the relevant NQF level. It should be NQF level 5 now, so that we can take the process forward. So Health and Welfare Center is willing to come on board to assist in that particular area. I don't see the hands, people appreciating Health and Welfare Center's intervention. So, but it's fine, program director, because I want to believe it's one of the progressive undertaking by the Health and Welfare Center to meet our child and care workers halfway, those who are affected and do not have the financial means to go and start. The other questions, you can repeat them, but I want to believe the chairperson of the professional board and the chairperson, Mr. Gallant and Fiona, and also the registrations manager will deal with what I might have omitted. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Registrar. I want to believe that all the questions answered. I'm not sure if there is a question that is not answered, and I don't see any hands, but I'll hand over to the chairperson of the Board of Child and Youth Care Workers, as well as to the chairperson of NSCW, so that they can have a word.
Thank you very much, Program Director, and thanks to the child and youth care workers who stayed for this number of hours until now, and all the questions that we have received, even those that were put on the chat box. So thank you very much, and the employers and all who have been able to stay on. I think this is a session that was overdue, and I am happy that we are having it, because one can see with the number of questions that are being asked that the people needed to be given a way forward. I'm going to touch on a few points that the registrar responded to. And I think before I even do that, let me also thank the registrations manager for answering many questions that were asked before, of course, as well as the registrar. The issue on the road shows, the registrar responded to that. We would so much like to do that, but we are limited by the financial resources. And we also believe that the other point is that even if we were to have these road shows, the fact is that it's not always possible to get all people together in whatever means one can try to employ to get people together. It's not always possible. So when we have attended sessions like this, let's take back the information to the regions, to the organizations and child and youth care centers, and any other forums where child and youth care workers and the employers are serving, so that we try and spread this information far and wide. And also that you are going to be receiving the presentation that can also be helpful, because you can use that as a basis for your engagement with the sector. The registrar touched on the issue of he handed this one to me, the increase in professional level child and youth care workers. Of course, this is a big problem that is facing the sector. And we invite all child and youth care workers to look at this as a challenge as well as an opportunity. Unfortunately, we only have Durban University of Technology that is offering a degree in child and youth care work. And I can see that they are really opening up to accommodate the child and youth care workers who are willing to study. So please do engage with the Durban University of Technology to get more information on how you can enroll either for a degree or for a master's degree. I know that for master's degrees, they indicated that there are opportunities. I'm not sure if those opportunities will be open now, but if they are closed, I'm sure that they will have opportunities next year. And some of these opportunities are funded opportunities, so you may be lucky and get a bursary. And the board, together with the Office of the Registrar and the Council, have been trying to open other avenues for tertiary education. There has been engagement with UNISA and the University of Johannesburg. It is not moving as fast as we would like it to be, but there are some discussions and negotiations that are going on. We're just hoping that it's going to bear fruit at the end. I also want to speak on the affected child and youth care workers because of the sunset clause. We are aware as the board that some of the people who are affected may have studied. We're talking of the past 9 years. So some of the people studied and they acquired qualifications, and their information may not have been submitted to council. So please do submit that information to council if you enrolled and you got a minimum qualification. And if you have enrolled and you are still studying, also do submit that information to council so that your information can be updated. Registrar, I want to finish by thanking you for the lead on the meeting that we had with HWCTA with regard to the affected child and youth care worker, auxiliary child and youth care workers by the sunset clause, and that the HWCTA is positively considering assisting these auxiliary child and youth care workers who are affected by the sunset clause. And we are calling upon to the sector to say, when we start communicating that those opportunities are made available for people to study the MQF level 5, please, people must respond. And it's advisable that you've got a working contact information. If you've got an email, make sure that that email it is registered with, it is the one that you have given to council. If you are having a phone, that number must be the one that you have given to council so that we are able to reach you when we have to. Otherwise, opportunities like this will come and pass. And when we meet again, people will say that it was never communicated. Whereas it would have been communicated. Program Director, thank you very much. I think I have responded to some of the points that were left unanswered. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I can see there's one hand, but before I can go to Bianca. Bianca, can we hear what you want to say, Bianca? Oh, maybe the hand was lifted by mistake. But from this side, I think the question have been answered, but I want to there's no support there, but I want to encourage all the child and youth care workers who have applied to the council and there's no response till date. Can you kindly email us the list? What we normally encourage is for the list to have a name, surname, and the ID number. You email that list to registrations at SACSSP or to myself, Kutala, at sacsssp.co.za. In a case whereby you didn't have a certificate from HWCTA, you are only outstanding with that certificate. It has been shared from the Office of Registrar that you must enlist your name to the Board of Child and Youth Care Workers. If you have omitted that, you can email us your name to myself as well, so that we can forward the names of the people who never got their HWCTA certificates. And we want to appreciate the Health and Welfare Sector for this initiation of funding in terms of child and youth care workers who are not able to fund themselves. This is not only to DSD child and youth care workers, but it's for all child and youth care workers who cannot be able to pay for their fees, who cannot be able to pay for their studies, sorry. Maybe even on that one, because Ms. Malombo from Registration Division, in her presentation, she mentioned even those, the child and youth care workers who are unable to pay for their fees, there is an exemption. You apply to us so that we check if you are applicable to be not to pay for the fees. I don't know if Nosipo Grace, do you have a question? Can we give you a chance? Nosipo?
You hear me?
Yes, Nosipho.
Thank you, ma'am. I was just struggling to be an answer. I raised my phone, I raised it the second time. Thank you, ma'am. I wanted to ask, I have an N2 level for the child and youth care workers, and I want now to continue for level 4, level 5 for the child and youth care workers. Where can I get in? So I see when I in the for bursaries, there's no bursary, but what says the child and youth care workers who are interested to continue with the course, with the training of child and youth care workers to have a diploma. Thank you, ma'am.
Nosipho, you want to continue from level 4 to do the degree or diploma?
I have a level 4. At that time, I was working at Busasa, and they gave that social development implement the child and youth care workers for level 4. I have a level 4, but I don't have a level 5. I wanted to continue to have N2 level 5 and N2 level 4 for 6.
Thank you, Nosipho. You can lower your hand. I'll hand over to you, Chairperson, or any member to take this one. Thank you.
The Chairperson is the acting ETD manager.
Yes, can I come in?
Okay.
Program director. Yes, if I understand the question correctly, Bianca has got NQF level 4 and she wants to do NQF level 5. And what I understand is that she is not aware of any bursaries that are available. I'm also not aware of bursaries that are available to pay for NQF level 5. But I know that there are different service providers who are providing NQF level 5. My advice would be that she approach those service providers and see how they can assist here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I want to add on, there was a question by child and youth care worker about the incorrect date on the receipt on the practice card. I believe that she said she got a receipt that is stating that it's gonna be due 2024, which is March 31st, of which she has paid for this year, annual fees for 2024 to 2025. Can you kindly email finance so that they can do the verification on the chat box? I will write an email for finance. You can approach Mr. Ndlovu on red temp 6 at SACSSP.co.za, quoting your registration number so that they can do the verification of payments before they can issue a practice card, which is going to be 2024, 2025. Thank you. From this point in time, I do not see any question, but allow me to appreciate everyone in this webinar. We will go now, I think, and I believe we've exhausted this point of discussion, questions and answers. I want to hand over to the registrar, Mr. Sikita, for the resolutions and way forward. In a case whereby we've, oh yes, Chairperson, I can see your hand, Mr. Gallant. Over to you.
Yes, thank you, Program Director. Now, I just want to make one point clear, and it's a struggle that we do have, especially with the departments where they employ social auxiliary workers as child and youth care workers, we don't find the opposite where child and youth care workers will be employed elsewhere. And so this is not on. I think we need to address this with the employers. And I would like the professional board to also attend to it, that we again, send them these notices in terms of, because child and youth care has been recognized in terms of legislation as a profession on its own. Because we do have child and youth care workers on auxiliary level and professional. Social auxiliary workers are trained to assist and support social workers. That is just my comment, that we please do attend to this burning issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gallant, for that comment and note. From this time now, I will hand over to the registrar for the resolutions and way forward. In a case whereby you wanted to ask a question, but you can see that we are moving to another point, can you kindly utilize our chat box or use the email addresses that have been written there? There's the email address for the Secretary of the Board of Child and Youth Care Workers. There's the email address for the Secretary of Registrations. There's an email address for the Program of Child and Youth Care Workers. Nosipo Grace, please unmute your audio. Can you kindly mute? Thank you very much. There is also an email for Program of Child and Youth Care Workers, which is the registrations at SACSSP.co.za. In a case whereby you have a clarity-seeking question or you have a query concerning your registration, you are never responded. Over to you, Registrar. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Program Director. I'm just going to summarize and also appreciating you and everyone who worked behind the scenes for this session to be successful to where it is so far. We really appreciate you, colleagues. The first issue as part of the discussions of the way forward, it will not be resolutions per se, because we might not have come back to reflect on the issues. First is the issue of the child and care workers sector landscape. The SACSSP will issue a general notice to the employers of child and care workers to submit the list of child and care workers within a particular date. Then we'll take it from there. Second issue, the SACSSP to consider entering into an MOA with the South African Police Services as far as the issue of clearance certificate is concerned. Number three, regarding the issue of the list that needs to go to the health and welfare sector, we will issue a general notice inviting people to submit their names so that we can compile a submission to the health and welfare sector. Number four, the issue of sharing child and care worker information from the SACSSP side, that we need to share the information pertaining to child and care workers matters, whether it's registration, CPD, or ETD or professional conduct division. We will do that, but in the meantime, we will share the presentations with everyone who's here today. And number five, the professional board for child and care work and council to consider conducting a research on the challenges or problems relating to the gap between people who are registered at professional level and or auxiliary level as far as the qualification is concerned. Number six, that the SACSSP together with the professional board for child and youth care work address the issue of social auxiliary workers and non-registered person being employed as child and youth care workers. So those are some of the issues that I've captured, Chairperson. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Registrar. From this time, I will hand over to Mr. Francisco Cornelius, our council member present here in this webinar, to do the vote of thanks. And we really appreciate everyone every participant that has attended this webinar. Thank you. Over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I know you didn't even have a tea break, but anyway, we're done now. Program Director, thank you for the opportunity. I want to start by my thanks to the chairperson of the NACCW, Mr. Alwyn Galan, for your work as an association in working closely with the council to set up this webinar. I think it was a very important piece of work. I think it was very important for us to talk to one another. I think it's been a long time coming that child and youth care workers have felt very despondent at times, and also maybe felt that they were left out in the field all on their own. But we're talking about two different associations here. We're talking about organizations, we're talking about an association for child and youth care workers, which is headed up by the chairperson, Mr. Gallant, and then the directors of the NACCW for your work behind the scenes in supporting your NEC to get this opportunity available for child and youth care workers who are registered with the NACCW. The field is much wider than that, and we acknowledge that there are many child and youth care workers out there who are not members of the NACCW, but also took the time to tune in today. I mean, at one stage, I think it was almost up to 150 people in the meeting. I noticed there's still 124. I also noticed that there were social service professionals across the field, social workers, people from SACSSP, people from health, you know, who joined in here. So it was a very, very important meeting and a discussion to be held so that people are informed at the broader base and at ground level as to what it is that they should be doing in terms of ensuring that the practice are ethical. I want to thank the chairperson of the Professional Board for Child and Youth Care Work and his vice chairperson, Mr. Donald Ngonyama, for also ensuring that there's a big presence out there and for helping people understand that the role of the professional board is different to that of an association as well as to council. And my plea is that, you know, that there's more information that goes out to people at ground level so that they are kept informed. I like the idea by the person from the Northern Cape that there's a booklet made available for people so that it's a handy thing to have on your desk if you're not sure about what's happening. The deputy chairperson of the NACCW, Mrs. Fiona Balgaman, thank you very much for your input. I want to go back to the chairperson of the board, Mr. Ngonyama, who kept on emphasizing the importance of child and youth care workers who should be registered. I think that is the bottom line. That was the trend coming through all the discussions by just about everybody. And that it is very critical that we work responsibly and ethically in the lives of children. Ms. Fiona Balgaman also gave a very brief update of the current status of the registrations, and that was pertaining to the challenges and complaints that came through to the NACCW of their membership, you know, and the struggles that they had. The staff team at the council did a very good job in explaining the step by step the registrations by Octavia Malambo and what it meant and what it means that child and youth care workers need to take into consideration when they do register. There are mandates. There are mandates from, you know, for council. There are mandates in terms of registration. There are mandates in terms of regulation. All of those things were given to us today. And I'm hoping that, you know, in the weeks to come, that people will try and lay their hand on the presentation so that they are kept up to date in terms of what was discussed today. There are specific requirements, we were told, to practice. There are specific requirements for deregistration and also for restoration. All of those things are very important issues. And of course, the issues of the status reports amongst all the other things. The legal requirement is very important. Why? Because we all need to have a license to practice. There was then also the issue of annual fees that were discussed, and there, you know, people obviously say, you know, if we don't have a job, what do we do? Well, you heard that you can apply to the child and to the council by way of a letter explaining your position or disposition, and then you can inquire there what you need to do so that you can not be deregistered from council. Also at Betty Mukwena, who defined the CPD policies and the importance of social services professionals staying up to date with the knowledge in the field of practice. Very important. CPD, how does it work? And also people who want to register training and those kind of things with the council, that there's a certain fee involved when you do so. We had Anna Madunsela, the acting manager for professional conduct, who kept on reminding us that in order to maintain the prestige of the professionalization, we need to act legally within the confines of the prescripts of the law that's available to us. The registrar, in his summing up, thank you very much, Registrar, in his summing up of what the key points are that we're taking forward, even though it may not be resolutions at this stage, but very important for us to keep pondering on. The issue of employers to submit the names of the child and youth care workers. This is a start to something new. The issue of SAPS and the partnership that we have, that council are embarking on with SAPS, so that we can make things a little bit more easier when people need to apply for police clearance. Then that very important thing that we heard that the CETA, the HW CETA, and their offering of bursaries, the continuation of that by council, to keep communicating with them so that we actually do get bursaries available for child and youth care workers at ground level to study further. The information sharing booklet, as I mentioned earlier on, and of course the importance of research. You know, in all fields that we find today in the workplace, employers need to continue doing research. But this isn't just at one level. I think at council, board, association, and employers level, we need to constantly keep reminding ourselves that research is important so that we don't fall by the wayside. And lastly, he mentioned to us that the council and the professional board needs to work very closely together so that we can continue understanding who are employed as child and youth care workers and who are not. And the very important point by Mr. Gallant that he makes, that the Department of Social Development, who is the custodian of the Children's Act, you know, in all spheres of working with children, who are employing child and youth care workers with other kind of qualifications, and vice versa. They have people who they send to be trained in another kind of profession, but employing them as child and youth care workers. So I think it was a very important discussion for all of us. And I want to thank everybody for staying so long until 1:30 to hear how we can be refreshed and how we can actually be brought up to speed in terms of where our profession is. So once again, thank you very much to each and everyone. And Program Director, thank you for managing it so well. Everybody, thanks and have a good day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cornelius, for the vote of thanks. And thank you, everybody, for holding up until thus far. Going forward, we have a direction as the Board of Child and Youth Care Workers, especially after these fruitful presentations. Please take note, the presentations will be shared on your emails. Kindly share your email. Hit myself at kutala@SACSSP.co.za if you didn't send your email on the chat box. From this point in time at 1:30, 13:31, and thank you very much for holding up until this far. I declare this webinar closed. Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Bye.